As the great Buddha once wisely said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. There is a war raging inside you, not with the world, but within your own head. Every emotion, every decision, every reaction originates in the mind, and if you don't master it, it will master you. It will drag you into anxiety, into fear, into addiction, into regret. Slowly, silently, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize who you've become. You may look calm on the outside, but inside, your mind could be screaming, doubting, attacking you, and no one around you even knows. But there is a way out, a way to bring peace back to your mind and power back to your life. Buddhist wisdom is not just philosophy, it is medicine. It is a compass. It is a light for the mind lost in its own darkness. Let us begin. 1. Watch your thoughts like clouds in the sky. Imagine looking up at the sky on a peaceful day. The sky itself is calm, endless and still, but clouds come and go, sometimes light and fluffy, other times dark and stormy. These clouds don't change the sky, they only pass through it. In the same way, your mind is like the sky, pure and open, but your thoughts, they are like clouds. Some are soft and harmless, others are heavy with sadness, anger or fear. But here is the truth. Just because a cloud appears doesn't mean the sky is broken, and just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it defines who you are. Yet most people fall into a trap. When a sad thought appears, they say, I am sad. When a fearful thought arises, they believe, I am in danger. They confuse themselves with the thought, as if the cloud has become the sky. But Buddhism teaches something very different and very powerful. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. You are the sky, not the passing weather. This simple awareness can change everything. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly. No phone, no noise. Just sit and breathe. Let your thoughts rise and fall without grabbing them, without chasing them, without judging them. Don't try to push them away, and don't hold on to them either. Simply observe. Be like a mountain watching the wind move across its surface. When you do this, something amazing happens. You begin to create space between you and your thoughts. That space is freedom. That space is power. It's the difference between reacting blindly and responding with wisdom. You may have an angry thought, but you no longer act in anger. You may feel sadness, but you don't drown in it. You may remember something painful, but it no longer controls you. And just like the sky is never truly harmed by a storm, your mind remains untouched at its core. The cloud cannot shake the sky. And no matter how many thoughts appear, they can never break the deep stillness inside you unless you let them. So the next time a painful thought appears, don't panic. Don't identify with it. Don't say, this is me. Just smile gently, like you're watching a cloud drift by, and say in your heart, this too shall pass. That's how you begin to reclaim your peace. Not by fighting the mind, but by understanding it. Not by silencing every thought, but by learning how to let them go. And the more you practice this, the stronger your awareness becomes. One day, a storm may rise in your mind, but you'll remain calm like the sky, untouched and free. That is the beginning of real power. 2. The mind is a servant, don't make it your master. Imagine handing the keys to your house to a stranger who doesn't know how to drive and watching them crash into everything. That's exactly what happens when you let your mind run without discipline. It doesn't matter how smart or talented you are, if your mind is uncontrolled, it will sabotage everything you try to build. The truth is, your mind was never meant to lead. It was designed to serve. It is a powerful tool, a magnificent servant, but it makes a terrible master. When the mind controls you, it will drag you into endless loops of overthinking, fear, anxiety, guilt, regret, and doubt. You'll constantly jump from one worry to the next. You'll replay old mistakes. You'll create imaginary problems. You'll ruin your peace before anything even happens. But Buddhism teaches something very simple and powerful. Train your mind or it will train you. Just like a wild horse, if you don't hold the reins, it will throw you off and run wherever it pleases. You have to teach the mind its place. You have to remind it, you are not the boss here. You are a tool, a helper, a guide, not the ruler of my life. How do you begin this training? Not through anger, not through suppression, but through awareness and gentle discipline. Start with meditation, not to escape life, but to learn how your mind operates. Sit down, close your eyes, and observe your thoughts. Watch how quickly your mind wanders. Notice how fast it jumps from one thing to another. You'll see that your thoughts often pull you into imaginary conversations, arguments, plans, worries, or regrets. That's the untrained mind, always busy, always noisy, never present. Now breathe. Bring your attention back, again and again. Every time your mind wanders, don't get angry. Just smile and gently return. This is the training. This is the taming. Like teaching a child not to touch fire, you teach your mind to stay where it is helpful and leave where it is harmful. You also need to become aware of your self-talk, your inner voice. Is it constantly judging you, criticizing you, predicting disaster? Then it's time to change the script. You don't have to believe everything your mind says. Not every thought is truth. Many thoughts are just echoes of your past, your fears, your pain, your conditioning. Question them, replace them, guide them. Because the reality is, an undisciplined mind will cost you everything. Your happiness, your relationships, your sleep, your peace, even your future. But a disciplined mind, that is the beginning of true freedom. A trained mind stays focused when others are distracted. A trained mind remains calm when chaos surrounds it. A trained mind helps you make wise decisions when others react emotionally. A trained mind becomes your ally in pain, your compass in confusion, your protector in difficult times. Think of the Buddha not as a god, but as a man who mastered his mind. That is why he sat so peacefully, even when the world around him was full of suffering. He didn't let his mind run wild. He led it. He trained it to follow wisdom, not fear. And you can do the same. So remember, the mind is a servant. It is here to help you think clearly, solve problems, make decisions, and stay focused. But never hand it the keys to your life. If you do, it will drive you in circles, deeper into suffering. But if you guide it with awareness and practice, it will carry you far toward peace, clarity, and freedom. Every moment you spend training your mind is a moment you reclaim your life. 3. Do not trust the first voice that speaks. Inside your head, there is a voice that never seems to stop talking. It reacts quickly. It jumps to conclusions. It criticizes, judges, fears, doubts, and overthinks everything. This voice seems so real, so convincing, that we often obey it without question. But what if I told you this voice is not your wisdom, it's your programming? You see, your mind is shaped by your past. Everything you've been through, every hurt, every fear, every rejection, every trauma gets stored deep inside. And when something happens in the present, your mind doesn't always respond with clarity. It reacts with old wounds. This is why when someone says something small, your mind might explode with anger. Or when you make a little mistake, your mind floods you with shame and fear. Or when life gets uncertain, your mind spins into panic. The first voice that speaks in your head is usually not the voice of your higher self. It's the voice of your survival self. It speaks fast, not because it's wise, but because it's afraid. It wants to protect you, but in doing so, it often hurts you. It tells you to stay small, to be careful, to avoid risk, to expect the worst. And if you believe it blindly, you will stay stuck in the same patterns for years, never growing, never healing. Buddhism teaches us not to react immediately, not to obey every thought, not to believe every story your mind tells. Instead, it teaches stillness, pause, observation. When a thought appears, especially a strong onido, not jump into it, just wait. Let's say someone criticizes you. The first voice might say, "They don't respect you, say something back." Or maybe, "They're right, you're useless." Stop. Wait. Instead of reacting, breathe. Observe the thought without becoming it. Watch what happens in your body. Does your chest tighten? Does your stomach sink? Does your heart race? These are signs that your nervous system has been triggered and your survival mind has taken the wheel. But here's the miracle. If you don't feed the thought, it loses its power. The angry voice weakens, the self-critical voice softens, and beneath that noise, something deeper begins to rise. A calmer voice, a wiser voice, one that doesn't speak in panic, but in peace. That voice might say, "It's okay. This moment doesn't define me." Or, "This person may be hurting too." Or even, "Let's step back and see clearly." This deeper voice is not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's honest, it's gentle, and it guides you from truth, not trauma. It often takes a few seconds of silence to hear it, but that silence is sacred. That space is where transformation happens. One of the greatest Buddhist teachings is that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You are not the first voice that speaks. You are the one who chooses whether to listen. And this choice is everything. Because when you stop reacting to the first voice, your whole life begins to change. Instead of shouting in anger, you speak with clarity. Instead of sinking into shame, you offer yourself compassion. Instead of spiraling in fear, you take wise, grounded action. Instead of repeating the past, you finally step into the present. Think of your mind like a noisy marketplace. There's always a vendor shouting something, "You're not good enough. You're going to fail. You should be scared." But you don't have to buy what they're selling. Just because a voice is loud doesn't mean it's right. Just because a thought is familiar doesn't mean it's true. The more you practice awareness, the more power you reclaim. So next time that first voice rises, up, don't rush. Let it speak, let it pass. Like a wave, let it crash, and then watch it fade. Beneath the noise, your real wisdom is waiting. It's always been there, calm, quiet, steady like a mountain. And when you learn to listen to that voice, the second voice, the still voice, your actions become rooted in peace, not panic, in love, not fear, in strength, not survival. This is how you take your mind back. Not by silencing the thoughts, but by choosing which voice to follow. 4. Attachment is the root of inner chaos. One of the deepest sources of suffering in life is not the event itself, but our attachment to how we think things should be. We suffer not because people leave, but because we can't let go. We suffer not because plans change, but because we cling to what could have been. We suffer not because the world is imperfect, but because we demand it to be perfect according to our own ideas. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of all suffering. And this doesn't just mean material attachment. It includes attachment to people, emotions, identities, expectations, memories, and even outcomes. When you become attached, you're saying to life, "It must be this way or I can't be happy." And in doing so, you tie your peace to something that is constantly changing. You see, life is like a river, it's always moving. But attachment tries to freeze the river. It says, "Stay the way you are, don't change." But that's not how life works. People evolve. Situations shift, time flows. Trying to hold on to a specific moment, feeling, or person is like trying to hold water in your handset, slips through no matter how tightly you grip. Yet, we keep holding. We hold on to the relationship that's over, the version of ourselves we used to be, the dream that didn't happen, the praise we once received, the pain someone caused us. And the more tightly we hold, the more our mind spins in chaos. We begin to fear loss. We start to control. We replay the past. We worry about the future. And slowly, without realizing, we stop living because our mind is too busy clinging to what was or what should be. But here's the truth Buddhism reveals. Freedom begins where attachment ends. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. Letting go means you allow life to move without trying to grip it so tightly. You love, but without trying to possess. You dream, but without becoming imprisoned by the outcome. You feel pain, but you don't let it define your identity. You enjoy the moment, but you're not broken when it passes. This is the way of the middle path where you live fully but without chains. Take a moment to reflect. Are you holding on to a person who is no longer walking beside you? Are you attached to an image of success that's now hurting your peace? Are you chasing an old version of happiness while ignoring the beauty of the present? Ask yourself, is this attachment serving me or enslaving me? The mind clings because it fears the unknown. It says, if I let go, I'll lose everything. But the opposite is true. When you let go, you gain back your inner space, your peace, your energy, your presence. You begin to realize your happiness was never meant to depend on something outside of you. It was always within, hidden beneath the layers of grasping, fear, and need. Like the sky hidden behind thick clouds still there, still vast, still untouched. Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice. When you notice your mind clinging, pause. Take a deep breath. Say to yourself, I release this. I trust life. I return to now. Over time, your grip softens. The fear fades. And in that space, peace enters not because everything outside is perfect, but because your mind is no longer at war with reality. This is the path of inner calm. You walk it not by adding more, but by releasing what no longer serves you. You don't become free by controlling life. You become free by surrendering to its flow. And in that surrender, you discover something extraordinary. The more you let go, the lighter you become. And the lighter you become, the higher you rise. So let go not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do about your peace, your clarity, your soul. And remember, the sky loses nothing when a cloud passes by. Let your attachments drift like clouds and return to the still, spacious freedom that has always been yours. 5. Learn the art of single-pointed focus. In the modern world, distraction is the new disease. Your mind is constantly being pulled in 1,000 directions. Notifications, messages, emails, social media, noise, opinions, expectations. Every single day, your attention is fragmented into smaller and smaller pieces. And with every moment you allow yourself to be pulled away from the present, you weaken the power of your mind. You see, the mind was never designed to multitask endlessly. It was not meant to shift gears every few seconds, to scroll through hundreds of images, to respond instantly to every ping and buzz. The natural state of the mind, according to Buddhist teachings, is calm, steady, and clear, like a still lake reflecting the sky. But the untrained, distracted mind becomes like stormy, water-muddy, turbulent, unable to reflect anything clearly. Buddhism teaches a powerful practice called samadhi, which means deep, single-pointed concentration. It is the ability to focus entirely on one thing without allowing your attention to be hijacked. And make no mistake, this is not just about work or productivity, this is about spiritual clarity. When your mind is focused, your perception sharpens, your emotions settle, your body relaxes. Your anxiety disappears. Your decisions become aligned with your inner truth. A distracted mind lives on the surface, always reacting, always chasing. A focused mind sinks into the depth of the moment. Listens more, sees more, feels more, understands more. Think about this. When was the last time you did just one thing with your full attention? Not thinking of what's next, not half listening, not multitasking, but truly present. Maybe it was when you were watching a sunset, or holding someone you love, or walking alone in nature. In those moments, didn't everything feel simple, light, peaceful? That's the power of attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and wherever your energy flows, your life grows. But if your attention is scattered, your energy becomes diluted, and your life begins to feel chaotic, empty, and exhausting. Now, understand this. Training the mind to focus is not about force, it's about practice. You start by choosing one thing to bring your awareness to. It could be your breath. It could be a candle flame. It could be the sound of the wind or the task in front of you. You gently place your attention there and, when the mind wanders, as it always will, you don't get frustrated. You simply bring it back. Again and again. This repetition is how you build the muscle of mental stillness. Just as a body becomes strong through daily exercise, the mind becomes focused through daily presence. Single-pointed focus is not a gift reserved for monks in caves. It is available to you in every moment. You can eat mindfully, without rushing or scrolling. You can speak with full attention, looking someone in the eye and truly hearing their words. You can work with clarity, without checking your phone every 5 minutes. And when you live like this, fully absorbed in the moment, you begin to enter a different state of being. Your anxiety fades, not because the world has changed, but because your attention is no longer scattered. Your fears quiet down, not because there is no danger, but because your awareness is stronger than your panic. You begin to feel more grounded, more energized, more alive. A focused mind is not just peaceful, it is powerful. It sees through illusions. It solves problems with clarity. It avoids unnecessary conflict. It conserves energy. It creates joy. And in the face of difficulty, it does not shatter, it remains steady, like a tree rooted deep in the earth. That is the power of samadhi. That is the gift of a trained mind. So make this your daily practice. Slow down. Choose one thing. Pour your awareness into it fully. And when you feel your attention slipping, don't criticize yourself. Just return, gently and patiently, like returning home after being lost. With time, your mind will learn. It will stop running. It will stop reacting. It will begin to rest in the present moment, and, in that presence, you will discover a peace that no distraction can ever give you. You don't need a silent forest or a temple to train your mind. Every moment is an opportunity. Every breath is a doorway. Every task is a path. Walk it slowly, walk it fully. And you will discover that the mind you once thought was wild and chaotic can become your greatest ally in life, or not by chasing more, but by focusing on less. 6. Your mind feeds on what you feed it. Your mind is not a vacuum, it is a sponge. It absorbs everything you allow into it. The sounds you hear, the words you read, the images you scroll through, the conversations you engage in, and even the silence you ignore. Just as your body becomes what you eat, your mind becomes what you consume. It is shaped, molded, and conditioned by every experience, every repetition, and every influence you expose it to, whether you realize it or not. And this silent process, this constant absorption, either builds your peace or breaks it. In Buddhism, the importance of mindful consumption is emphasized deeply, not only in the food you take into your body, but in the ideas, stories, and energies you take into your consciousness. Most people understand how junk food harms the body, but they fail to see how junk thoughts, toxic media, shallow entertainment, fear-driven news, and endless comparisons slowly poison the mind. Day after day, we scroll through images that trigger envy, watch videos that glorify violence or drama, and engage in conversations that stir gossip, judgment, and negativity. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, why we can't sleep peacefully, why our thoughts are loud, restless, and never-ending. The answer is simple. What you feed grows. If you feed your mind fear, it grows fearful. If you feed it anger, it becomes reactive. If you feed it lust, it grows restless. If you feed it mindlessness, it becomes numb. But if you feed it truth, it becomes wise. If you feed it peace, it begins to settle. If you feed it kindness, it opens. If you feed it mindfulness, it becomes still, present, and deeply aware. You must begin to treat your mind with the same care and discipline as you would treat a fragile, sacred garden. You don't allow weeds to overgrow a garden and then complain that your flowers won't bloom. You don't pour dirty water into a stream and expect it to stay clear. So why allow mental pollution to pour into your consciousness all day and still expect clarity, peace, and joy? Start becoming more conscious of everything that enters your mind. Observe the effects of what you consume. After watching a show or scrolling your feed, do you feel calm or more agitated, inspired or more empty, connected or more lost? After spending time with someone, do you feel expanded or drained? These are not coincidences, these are signs. Your emotional response is your soul's way of telling you what your mind is digesting. Buddhism teaches that right view and right mindfulness are essential to awakening. This means being deeply intentional about what you give your attention to. Attention is your currency. It's the most precious thing you own. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you allow it to be hijacked by meaningless noise, your life becomes that noise. If you choose to direct it with care, your life begins to reflect that clarity. Make a conscious shift. Choose silence over meaningless chatter. Choose wisdom over mindless content. Choose books that nourish the soul over gossip that poisons it. Choose to follow people who bring light, not chaos, into your mind. Protect your mental space like a sacred temple. Just as you wouldn't invite a reckless person to smash things in your home, don't allow destructive thoughts or voices to take root in your mental home. You must also be careful with repetition. The mind learns through what it hears again and again. If you constantly repeat, "I'm not good enough," your mind begins to believe it. If you always say, "Life is hard," your mind sees the world that way. But if you choose to repeat affirmations like, "I am at peace," "I trust the process of life," "This moment is enough," then slowly your mind reshapes its inner landscape, thought by thought, word by word. Meditation, journaling, mindful breathing, all of these are ways to clean and clear the mind. But the foundation begins with one essential truth. Stop feeding your mind what makes it sick. Cut off the stream of poison. Filter your content. Filter your conversations. Filter the voices you allow into your sacred space. You don't need to live in a cave to find peace. You just need to stop feeding your mind what takes peace away. Even a few minutes of mindfulness a day can be enough to begin healing the damage caused by years of distraction and noise. Start now. Make your mental diet clean. Not perfect, but intentional. Feed your mind stillness. Feed it gratitude. Feed it loving kindness. Feed it teachings that guide you back to your center. Because, in the end, your mind is always becoming something. The only question is, what are you making it become? And the answer begins with what you choose to feed it, moment by moment, day by day. 7. Empty your mind daily, like pouring out dirty water. Most people spend their lives collecting. They gather thoughts, memories, opinions, worries, emotions, past conversations, future fears, regrets, dreams, and stories. Day after day, they carry all of it inside their minds like a heavy sack strapped to their back. And because they never release what they've gathered, their minds become overloaded, cluttered, noisy, restless. They lie in bed with a racing mind. They sit at work distracted. They talk to others but aren't really present. Why? Because they've never learned the sacred art of mental release. They've never been taught that just as the body must eliminate waste to stay healthy, the mind too must be emptied regularly to remain clear and at peace. Buddhism teaches that the mind is not a container to be filled, but a space to be kept open. It is not a storage unit for emotional baggage or mental noise. It is a temple, a vessel for clarity, stillness, and insight. But you cannot access clarity in a mind that is already full of old clutter. You cannot hear the voice of wisdom when it's drowned out by the noise of yesterday. You cannot experience peace in a mind that never pauses to breathe. This is why we meditate. This is why we return to silence. Not to run from life, but to make room for life to enter us again fresh, clean, and undistorted. Think of your mind like a cup. Each day, life pours things into it: experiences, interactions, information, stress, stimulation. If you don't pour any of it out, it spills. That spill becomes irritation, anxiety, confusion, or numbness. You begin to feel overwhelmed for no clear reason. You snap at small things. You zone out during important moments. You forget simple tasks. This isn't because you're weak. It's because your cup is too full, and no one ever taught you how to empty it. But you can learn. You can make the simple but sacred practice of mental emptying part of your daily life. It begins with awareness, paying attention to what you've been carrying. Did someone upset you today? Don't push it down. Acknowledge it. Sit with it. Then release it. Did you make a mistake? Don't replay it 100 times. Reflect on it with compassion. Then let it go. Is your mind busy worrying about tomorrow? Gently remind yourself, tomorrow is not here yet. Breathe into the present moment and allow your body to soften. There are many ways to pour out the mind's noise. Meditation is the most powerful. When you sit in stillness and simply observe your thoughts without attaching to them, you give them permission to rise and pass. You let the storm come, but you no longer chase the thunder. You let the memories surface, but you don't drown in them. You become the observer, not the participant. And in doing so, the grip of those thoughts begins to loosen. What once felt heavy now begins to feel light. What once controlled you now simply moves through you, like wind through an open window. Another way to release is through conscious breathing. The breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. When your thoughts are racing, slow your breath. Inhale slowly, exhale even more slowly. Each breath becomes an act of letting go. Inhale presence, exhale tension, inhale calm, exhale noise. It sounds simple, but it is one of the most powerful acts of healing you can give yourself. Journaling is another beautiful method of release. When you write out your thoughts, emotions, fears, and frustrations, you take what is formless and give it form. You remove the chaos from your head and place it on the page. It no longer spins around your mind. It becomes something you can observe from a distance. This distance creates clarity. And from clarity, peace begins to return. Nature, too, can cleanse the mind. Walking in silence among trees, listening to the sound of water, watching the clouds pass. These acts help you reconnect with the natural rhythm of life. Nature does not rush. It does not overthink. It simply exists moment to moment. When you align yourself with that rhythm, your mind begins to remember what stillness feels like. You remember that peace is not something you find, it's what remains when you stop feeding chaos. It's also essential to create boundaries around what enters your mental space. Stop giving your mind unnecessary things to carry. Say no to drama. Say no to overstimulation. Say no to meaningless scrolling. Say no to conversations that leave you drained. Say yes to quiet. Say yes to simplicity. Say yes to moments that ground you. The more you say no to what pollutes your mind, the less you'll have to work to empty it. And finally, remember this: mental release is not weakness, it is wisdom. Letting go does not mean you're giving up. It means you are wise enough to know that your peace matters more than holding on to every thought, every grudge, every anxiety. It means you are choosing to protect the sacred space within you. Because what lives in your mind eventually becomes what lives in your life. If your mind is chaotic, your life reflects that. If your mind is peaceful, your life begins to follow. So, make it a daily practice. Before you sleep, sit for just 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Ask yourself, what am I still holding on to from today that I no longer need? Then, with each exhale, let something go. The conversation you're replaying, the fear about tomorrow, the judgment you placed on yourself, the worry you picked up from someone else. Let it all go, one breath at a time. And as your mind begins to empty, feel how much lighter you become. Not because life has changed, but because you have changed your relationship with your own mind. And in that shift, everything begins to heal. 8. Be the master of your inner world, or you will be a slave to the outer one. In a world full of noise, chaos, opinions, expectations, and distractions, most people live as slaves to everything outside of them. Their moods rise and fall based on other people's words. Their self-worth is tied to likes, titles, attention, or validation. Their sense of peace is constantly shattered by external events, news, problems, drama, or uncertainty. They are pulled in every direction by forces they do not control, and they mistake this storm for normal life. But Buddhism reveals a liberating truth. You do not need to control the outer world to find peace. You only need to master your inner one. Your mind is the seat of your reality. It interprets, reacts, colors, and filters everything you experience. Two people can live the same situation. One suffers, the other smiles. The difference? Not the world, but the inner world. The one who suffers is still ruled by their thoughts. The one who smiles has begun to rule their thoughts. If you do not master your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your attention, then the outer world will master you. You will be angry when someone disagrees with you. You will be jealous when someone else shines. You will be insecure when life shifts. You will be anxious every time uncertainty appears. And this kind of living is not freedom, it is internal slavery. When Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he wasn't running from the world, he was facing the real battlefield, the mind. The demons that visited him weren't outside. They were temptations, fears, distractions, doubts, all rising from within. And how did he overcome them? Not with violence, not with denial, but with awareness, stillness, and understanding. He looked at them and said, "I see you." That was enough. Because once you see the enemy within clearly, it loses its power to control you. To become the master of your inner world, you must begin with one essential step. Take full responsibility for your mind. Do not blame others for your anger. Do not blame the world for your suffering. Yes, life is hard. People can be unfair. The world is unpredictable, but your reactions, those are yours. Your thoughts, those are yours. Your interpretations, stories, expectations, those all rise from within you, and that means you have the power to change them. This is not about blaming yourself, it's about empowering yourself. It's the difference between saying, "He made me angry," and "anger rose within me because I'm still wounded in this area." One gives away your power, the other reclaims it. Because if someone else controls how you feel, then you are never free. But if you control how you respond, you are always free, even in a world of chaos. Start by building a strong foundation of self-observation. Throughout your day, become aware of how your mind reacts. When someone interrupts you, what thought appears? When you fail at something, how do you speak to yourself? When plans fall apart, do you spiral into fear? Observe without judgment. Just notice. This awareness is your first tool. Because what you cannot see, you cannot change. But what you observe without reacting to, you begin to untangle and dissolve. You must also learn the art of non-reactivity. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means choosing your response instead of being dragged by emotion. If someone criticizes you, pause. If a thought tries to provoke fear, breathe. If your emotions surge, don't run from sit with them. Watch them rise. Watch them peak and watch them pass. Just like waves, just like storms. Your emotions are not the enemy, they're messengers. But if you let them steer your life, they become masters. Mastering the inner world means respecting emotion but not bowing to it. Listening to thought but not obeying all of it. Feeling deeply but remaining still like the sky that holds the storm. Another pillar of inner mastery is intentional thought curation. Most people let their minds think whatever it wants, whenever it wants. This is dangerous. Your thoughts shape your reality. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs shape perception, and perception creates experience. So if your mind constantly thinks, "I'm not enough," you will live in a reality that proves it. If your mind always thinks, "The world is against me," you will begin to see enemies everywhere. This is not magic. This is psychology. The Buddha said, "What we think, we become." That was not metaphor, it was instruction. So begin replacing harmful thoughts with wise ones. When a judgmental thought arises, replace it with compassion. When fear appears, meet it with trust. When self-doubt creeps in, counter it with a gentle reminder of your inner strength. It is not enough to remove weeds, you must plant flowers. You must reprogram the mind with truth, over and over, until truth becomes your default, not fear. You must also create rituals of inner purification. Just like you bathe the body, you must cleanse the mind. Meditation, stillness, breathwork, silence, gratitude, solitude. These are not luxuries, they are necessities. They allow you to clear the noise, reconnect with your essence, and restore balance. Every day that you do not empty your mind, it accumulates residue. And that residue clouds your judgment, steals your peace, and narrows your vision. But when you take time to return inward, you begin to feel light again, open, clear, alive. And finally, to truly master your inner world, you must understand this. Nothing outside of you can destroy your peace unless you give it permission. Not opinions, not criticism, not failure, not chaos. Everything that hurts you enters through the door of your own mind. Close that door, not by becoming cold, not by running away, but by training your awareness to see clearly, respond wisely, and stay rooted in what cannot be shaken. Your mind will try to wander, it will try to fear, it will try to judge, complain, and compare. This is what it was trained to do by the world. But now, it is your responsibility to retrain it. Teach it presence, teach it patience, teach it stillness, and with enough time, your inner world becomes a place of peace, a place of power, a place no storm can touch. Remember, the world will always change, people will come and go, success will rise and fall, the seasons will shift. But if you master your inner world, you will remain unmoved. And from that place of calm strength, you can meet life as it is, not with fear, but with grace. Not with control, but with clarity. Not with resistance, but with wisdom. And that is where real freedom begins, not in changing the world outside, but in transforming the world within. The mind that returns to the present moment is free. There is a secret doorway that leads out of fear, out of anxiety, out of suffering. This doorway is not hidden in the future. It is not buried in the past. It is here, now, this moment. But most people walk through life with their minds trapped in time, as if their present existence is a prison and salvation lives somewhere else. They think, "I'll feel better when this happens," or "I wish I could go back to when things were easier." And so they live as ghosts haunted by yesterday, obsessed with tomorrow, but rarely, if ever, alive to this breath. Buddhism teaches that the root of all suffering is disconnection from the present moment. Not because the present moment is always pleasant, sometimes it is painful, confusing, uncertain, but because when you resist what is, you suffer twice. First, from the pain itself, and second, from the mental stories you attach to it. These stories spin endlessly. Why is this happening to me? What if it never gets better? I should have done something differently. These thoughts do not solve anything. They are mental noise pretending to be useful, and if you do not interrupt them, they consume you completely. The mind is incredibly powerful, but it is not loyal to peace by default. It jumps to the future, searching for control. It returns to the past, searching for understanding. But rarely does it rest in the now, where life actually exists. And this is the great tragedy of modern life: to have everything except presence, to hold your phone but not your breath, to hear others but not listen, to speak without awareness, to eat without tasting, to live without truly being alive. The truth is, peace is not found in escape, it is found in return to this body, this moment, this breath, right here, right now. So how do you return? Begin by becoming deeply intimate with your breath. The breath is always here. It does not belong to the past or future. It is the thread that anchors you to now. When the mind races, breathe. When fear rises, breathe. Not shallow, automatic breathing, but conscious, slow, grounded breath. Feel the air entering your nose. Feel your chest rising. Feel your stomach softening. This simple act done fully interrupts the spiral of thought and gently pulls you back to reality. Not imagined reality, not feared reality, but actual, grounded, present moment truth. You must also begin to notice the pull of time. When you start obsessing over what might happen, pause. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Most future-based thoughts are rooted in fear. Most past-based thoughts are rooted in regret. Neither of these are real, they are shadows. And while you cannot stop the mind from producing them, you can stop yourself from chasing them. Buddhism teaches mindfulness, the art of simply being where you are, as you are, without needing the moment to be different. This does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up your goals or ignoring your pain. It means allowing the present to be what it is, before deciding what to do about it. Most people react to life before fully seeing it. They try to fix the feeling before understanding it. They try to escape before sitting still. This is like running away from your own reflection. You'll never be free until you face it. Presence requires courage. To be fully here means to open yourself to everything. This moment contains joy, yes, but also discomfort, confusion, sadness. Yet the miracle is this: even the pain becomes lighter when you face it with presence. It is not the pain that breaks you, it is the resistance to pain. When you stop fighting the now, you discover you can handle far more than you imagined. You are not as fragile as your mind tells you. Another powerful practice is sensory awareness. Bring your attention fully into your senses. What do you hear right now? Not just the obvious sounds, but the subtle ones. The hum in the background. The rhythm of your own breath. What do you feel against your skin? The temperature of the air. The weight of your clothes. What colors do you see? What textures? These are not distractions. They are doorways. Doorways into now. Because the body is always present, even when the mind is not. By returning to the body, you bring the mind back home. You must also recognize that every moment, no matter how ordinary, is sacred. Washing dishes, walking, drinking tea, listening to the rain. These are not obstacles to peace. These are opportunities. You do not need a meditation retreat or a perfect environment. You simply need to be where you are. Bring full attention to whatever you're doing. Not multitasking, not rushing. Just one thing, done with presence, becomes a form of meditation. And when you begin to live like this, life itself becomes your temple. Every step is prayer. Every breath is a blessing. Every act is devotion. Returning to the present also means releasing mental stories. The story of who you think you are. The story of what others have done. The story of what should have happened. These stories are heavy. They distort the moment. They keep you trapped in mental loops. Let them go. Come back to what's actually here. Not what your mind says about it. Not what your past says about it. Just what is. This is not easy. The mind is a master storyteller. It will pull you back again and again. But every time you notice and return, you reclaim power. Even if you have to return 100 times in an hour, return. The act of coming back is the path. Every time you do it, your awareness strengthens, your mind calms, your perception clears. You may begin to notice something profound, that most of the suffering you thought was real was actually just thought, just reaction, just imagination. And that beneath it all, this moment, this one right now, was actually okay. You are breathing, you are here, you are alive, and that is enough. Buddhism doesn't promise to take away pain, but it gives you the tools to meet it without collapsing, to see it without becoming it. And the foundation of all those tools is presence, because in presence you are no longer lost in stories, you are no longer fighting what is, you are no longer waiting for life to begin, you are in it, fully. And in that fullness, even ordinary moments begin to feel miraculous. You realize the sky has always been beautiful, the breath has always been a gift, the silence has always been sacred, but you were too far away to notice. So come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Come back to this step, this sound, this sight. Do it not just once, but over and over, until returning becomes your nature, until the present becomes your home. Because the mind that lives fully in the present moment is not just peaceful, it is free. Free from the burdens of yesterday, free from the illusions of tomorrow, free from the false self built on fear, control, and regret. And in that freedom, you do not just find peace. You find yourself. When you master the mind, you master your entire life. There is a moment in every seeker's journey where a great realization dawns not in a flash of lightning or the echo of divine words, but in the silent, steady truth that sinks deeper than all others. Your mind is the root of everything you experience. Every joy you feel, every pain you carry, every fear that follows you, Every moment of peace or chaos, it all begins in the mind. The world around you may change, people may come and go, success may rise and fall, but your inner world, the way you think, interpret and respond, remains the single most powerful force shaping your life. Buddhism teaches this not as a philosophy, but as a lived truth. If your mind is undisciplined, even the most beautiful life will seem unsatisfying. If your mind is restless, no amount of silence will bring you peace. If your mind is poisoned by anger, then even love becomes a battleground. But if your mind is still, if it is steady, if it is rooted in awareness, then even chaos begins to slow. Even pain becomes manageable. Even loss becomes a teacher, and the ordinary becomes enough. To master the mind is not about control in the aggressive sense. It is not about suppressing thoughts or denying feelings. It is about understanding, seeing the nature of your mind so clearly that it can no longer trick you, trap you, or lead you down the same paths of suffering. A master of the mind is not someone who never feels fear or anger, but someone who knows how to meet these emotions with presence, with wisdom, and with calm strength. You begin this journey by observing your mind not occasionally, but constantly. Watch the way it creates stories, how it reacts to small things with enormous drama, how it clings to what feels good and runs from what feels painful, how it judges others and then judges itself. Watch it as you would watch the surface of a lake and notice every ripple. Do not react. Do not chase the thought. Just watch. Because the moment you observe without becoming, you take your first step toward freedom. Most people think they are their thoughts, that if a fearful thought arises, they are fearful. If a jealous thought appears, they are bad. But this is not true. Thoughts are simply events in consciousness. They come, they go. Some are wise, some are foolish. Some are echoes of your childhood. Some are echoes of society. But none of them are you, unless you attach to them. The untrained mind attaches instantly. The trained mind watches, and it is in the watching that transformation begins. Buddhist masters teach the power of equanimity and inner steadiness that does not rise and fall with every emotion. Imagine standing at the shore, watching waves come and go. You don't jump into each one. You let them rise, you let them fall. This is how you must relate to your mind. The wave is not the problem. The problem is forgetting that you are not the wave. You are the shore. Unmoving, steady, timeless. To master the mind also means to guide it. You cannot simply remove negative thought. You must replace it with truth. When the mind says, "I am not enough," meet it with, "I am evolving, and this moment is enough for now." When it says, "I can't handle this," respond gently, "I have survived all my hardest days. I will survive this too." These are not just affirmations, they are realignments. Every time you speak truth to your mind, you realign it with clarity. You must also learn how to empty the mind, not permanently but regularly. Just as a room gathers dust when unattended, the mind gathers residue. Past conversations, subtle fears, tiny resentments, useless comparisons. This dust is not always loud, but it dulls the light of your awareness. It clouds your perception. Through meditation, breathwork, silence, or time in nature, you must sweep the mind clean. This cleansing allows space for wisdom to rise, and in that space, peace becomes possible again. Another key to mental mastery is consistency. You cannot master the mind in a single day. You must return, again and again, with patience and humility. There will be days when the mind is wild, when emotions are heavy, when you feel like you've made no progress. That's okay. Do not chase perfection. Chase presence. Every time you bring your mind back to awareness, you strengthen your inner root. And one day, without realizing, you will notice, The triggers that once shook you no longer disturb you. The thoughts that once consumed you now pass like clouds. The fear that once ruled you now fades beneath the light of your presence. Mastering the mind also means facing the self completely. Your wounds, your fears, your ego, your attachments. You cannot transform what you will not face. The mind hides from truth. It creates distractions, blames others, denies responsibility. But the one who seeks peace must walk into the shadow willingly. You must ask, what am I still holding on to? What am I afraid to feel? What story am I still repeating that no longer serves me? And then, with compassion not shame you, begin to release. You peel away the layers of illusion, and what remains is not emptiness, but clarity. True mental mastery is not cold or detached. It is warm, grounded. It allows joy to rise freely because it no longer fears pain. It allows love to bloom deeply because it no longer fears loss. It does not chase happiness, it embodies peace. It does not seek to dominate others, it seeks to understand itself. The master of the mind is kind, not because life is easy, but because the storm has been faced and dissolved from within. Buddhism does not offer quick fixes. It does not promise that pain will vanish or that life will always be simple. What it offers is a pathway to meet this life with eyes wide open, with a heart that is soft yet strong, and with a mind that is no longer your enemy, but your ally. And when that alliance is formed, when your mind begins to reflect your deepest truths instead of your deepest fears, your life changes in every way. Your relationships become more honest, your work becomes more meaningful, your solitude becomes nourishing, your emotions no longer control you. You begin to live deliberately, not reactively. You begin to choose your thoughts, your words, your actions not from habit, but from awareness. And eventually, you discover the most powerful truth of all. You are not here to escape your mind. You are here to wake it up, to purify it, to train it, to bring it home to the present. And from that place of inner stillness, to live with wisdom, grace, and compassion. The world may still be chaotic. Others may still misunderstand you. Pain may still visit. But your response is no longer dictated by fear or confusion. Your life is no longer a reaction to outer noise, but an expression of inner clarity. And in that, you have won the greatest battle. You have mastered the mind. And in doing so, you have mastered life itself. Let me know if you'd now like a powerful conclusion that brings all 10 lessons together into one final, poetic and reflective ending. The path is not out there, it's within you. Many people spend their entire lives searching for something. Some search for happiness in money, others search for validation in relationships. Some chase freedom in success, while others seek peace by trying to escape the world. They run from place to place, goal to goal, dream to dream, hoping that the next achievement, the next destination, the next person will finally bring them what they crave. But the deeper you walk along the path of awareness, the clearer one truth becomes. You will not find what you seek outside of you, because it was never out there to begin with. Buddhism reminds us gently and powerfully that the real path is inward, that everything you've ever longed for, peace, clarity, strength, love, freedom, fulfillment, already lives within you. It is not missing. It is not broken. It is not waiting in some distant future. It has only been buried. Buried beneath layers of mental noise, emotional wounds, conditioned beliefs, false identities, and the endless distractions of a world that teaches you to look everywhere except within. The journey within is not glamorous. It does not come with applause. There are no medals for facing your shadows, no trophies for sitting in silence, no crowd to cheer you on when you pause your life and ask yourself difficult questions. But it is the most important journey you will ever take. Because until you walk inward, you remain a stranger to yourself. You may wear many masks, you may play many roles, but beneath it all, you feel disconnected, like something essential is missing, even if everything looks fine on the surface. This disconnection is the real suffering. It is what leads people to numb themselves with pleasure, distract themselves with busyness, chase temporary highs, or fall into despair when life doesn't go their way. Because they've never been taught how to sit with themselves, how to listen, how to be still, how to face the truth that has always been waiting in silence. The inward path begins the moment you stop running from yourself. It begins when you ask, who am I really, when I'm not trying to impress anyone? What do I feel when I stop trying to distract myself? What is underneath all my thoughts, my fears, my desires? These are not questions to answer quickly, they are questions to live with, to hold gently, to return to again and again, like a sacred doorway that leads you deeper each time you knock. Meditation is not an escape, it is the mirror. It is the moment when you sit with yourself without flinching, without hiding. You meet your breath, you meet your mind, you meet your wounds, and slowly the layers begin to fall. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You may discover pain you didn't know you carried, memories you pushed away, restlessness that screams louder in stillness. But this is part of the cleansing. The mind does not release what you will not face, but once you face it gently, without judgment, it begins to dissolve. Not all at once, but drop by drop, like dark ink fading in clear water. Along this inward path, you also begin to meet the parts of you that you forgot, the strength you buried under fear, the innocence you buried under shame, the creativity you buried under routine, the joy you buried under responsibility. These parts of you are not gone. They've been waiting patiently under the surface for you to return home. And what is home in the Buddhist sense? It is not a place. It is a state of being, a return to your original nature before the world told you who to be. Before comparison, before anxiety, before identity. It is the deep stillness beneath the thoughts, the open sky beneath the clouds, the witness that has always been watching, quietly as life passed through you. Walking this path requires courage. It means being honest with yourself, not cruel, but honest. It means admitting what no longer serves you, even if it once brought comfort. It means letting go of identities you've clung to. It means saying no to the outer noise so you can finally hear the inner voice, the one that speaks, not in fear, but in truth. And it means trusting that everything you seek already exists inside you, not because you are perfect, but because you are complete. You do not need to become someone else. You need to remember who you already are, beneath the layers. You do not need to add more. You need to peel away what was never you. And you do not need to find the path. You only need to realize you are the path. Every breath you take with awareness is a step forward. Every emotion you feel fully and release is a step deeper. Every lie you unlearn, every wound you heal, every truth you honor, this is the way. And this path is not separate from daily life. It is not something you do in a cave or a monastery. It is here. Know in how you listen, how you speak, how you treat yourself when you fall short, how you choose presence over distraction, kindness over reactivity, awareness over autopilot. Even washing dishes can be the path if you do it with your whole heart. Walking to work can be meditation if you walk with full awareness. Speaking to someone with compassion, breathing deeply, letting go of an old grudge, these are not small acts. These are spiritual revolutions happening quietly within you. In the end, the inward path is a path of remembrance. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering something ancient. You are returning to the essence that has never left you, even when you forgot it was there. And as you walk this path not perfectly, but sincerely, you begin to notice something miraculous. You begin to suffer less, not because life gets easier, but because your inner world becomes steady. You begin to feel joy again, not because everything is fixed, but because your heart is open. You begin to see others more clearly, because the fog within you has cleared. You begin to liven not as a reaction to life, but as an expression of deep, grounded truth. This is the gift of the inward path. It does not give you a different life. It gives you a deeper life. Not more things, more meaning. Not more answers, more understanding. Not more control, more surrender. And not more noise, more silence full of presence, full of clarity, full of you. So stop searching for peace in places that never held it. Stop chasing versions of yourself that were never real. Turn inward not as a retreat, but as a return. Because the path you're looking for isn't waiting in the world. It's been quietly calling from within you all along. Detach from the illusion of control and you will finally be free. Human beings carry a quiet desperation within them, a restless urge to control life, to control outcomes, to control people, to control their emotions, their thoughts, even the timing of the universe. This urge is not born from strength, it is born from fear. A fear that if we do not grip tightly enough, everything will fall apart. A fear that if we don't force life to behave, we'll be swallowed by uncertainty. But Buddhism teaches the exact opposite. It is not control that gives us peace, it is surrender. At first, this truth feels threatening. The ego trembles when it hears the word surrender, because it believes that letting go means losing. That if you release control, you become passive, powerless, vulnerable. But in truth, clinging to control is what makes you weak. It exhausts you, it blinds you, it closes your heart, it chains your peace to outcomes you cannot guarantee. And when things inevitably don't go your way, you suffer not because life is cruel, but because your mind refuses to let go of what it never truly held. The illusion of control is like holding water in your hands. You can cup it for a while, but no matter how tightly you try to keep it, it slips through your fingers. And the tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. Life is the same. You cannot control other people. You cannot control what others say, what they feel, how they behave. You cannot control the weather, the timing of success, the unfolding of love, or the sudden twists of fate. You can prepare, you can respond wisely, but you cannot control the flow. And the more you try, the more disconnected, anxious, and bitter you become. So what is the alternative? It is not carelessness. It is not passivity. It is trust. It is surrender. It is the gentle art of letting go without giving up. You still act, you still show up. You still work, love, give, and grow. But you do so without being attached to how everything must turn out. You set your intention, you plant your seeds, you water them with presence and effort. But you do not scream at the tree to grow faster. You do not blame the clouds for the rain. You learn to live in harmony with the unpredictable rhythm of life, because life was never meant to be tamed. It was meant to be trusted. When you release control, something magical happens. Your mind begins to quiet down. Your anxiety lessens. Your relationships deepen. Your sleep becomes more restful. Your days feel lighter. Why? Because you are no longer fighting with life. You are flowing with it. You begin to respond to challenges instead of reacting in panic. You learn to breathe through uncertainty instead of rushing to escape it. You start making peace with not knowing, because you realize that not knowing is not the enemy. It is the natural state of all things. Control is rooted in fear. Surrender is rooted in wisdom. Wisdom understands that everything in this universe has a season, that things will come when they are meant to, and they will leave when their time is up. Wisdom doesn't try to cling to the wave it learns to surf. Wisdom doesn't try to capture the wind it learns to move with it. And wisdom doesn't need life to be perfected, only needs life to be real. Start observing where in your life you are trying to control what cannot be controlled. Are you trying to change someone who doesn't want to change? Are you obsessing over outcomes you can't force? Are you replaying conversations, worrying over things you already did? These are signs that your mind is trying to grasp the ungraspable. And these moments offer you a powerful opportunity not to tighten your grip, but to relax it, to breathe, to let go. And to remind yourself that your peace does not depend on external certainty, it depends on inner stillness. Buddhist teachings use the metaphor of an open hand. When your hand is open, life can move freely. You can receive, you can give, you can hold gently, and release when the time is right. But when your hand is clenched, it hurts, it strains, it holds nothing but tension. Living with an open hand means living with trust. Trust in the unfolding, trust in the timing. Trust that what is meant for you will find its way not through force, but through flow. To practice surrender is to become deeply present. Control is always about the future, what might happen, what could go wrong, how things should be. But surrender brings you back to now. And in this moment, right here, everything is okay. You are breathing. You are alive. You are not drowning. The fear is a shadow, not the truth. And the moment you return to the breath, the tension begins to soften. The urge to control begins to dissolve. Letting go also means letting go of the stories. The story that says you must have this person to be happy. The story that says you must reach this level of success to be enough. The story that says you failed because something didn't last. These are not truths. These are illusions, mental traps dressed as goals. Your worth does not come from outcomes. It comes from your presence, from your willingness to love, to show up, to try again, from your courage to feel pain without closing your heart, from your strength to release what no longer serves, even when it hurts. Detaching from control doesn't mean becoming indifferent. It means becoming aligned. Aligned with the natural intelligence of life. Aligned with your own intuition. Aligned with the understanding that life doesn't always give you what you want, but it often gives you what you need. And if you stay open, even heartbreak becomes a doorway. Even uncertainty becomes a teacher. Even loss becomes an awakening. So practice surrender, not once, but daily. In your breath, in your relationships, in your work, in your thoughts. Say to yourself gently, I trust the process. I release what I cannot control. I return to now. Say it until your heart believes it. Say it until your body softens. Say it until you realize that you were never meant to carry it all anyway. The burden you feel is not life, it is your resistance to life. And when you let go of resistance, you do not fall. You rise. You become light. You become free. Not because life is now perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. And in that freedom, in that deep inner exhale, you begin to truly live. Silence is not emptiness. It's the home of your true self. In a world that celebrates noise, that chases after louder voices, faster thoughts, constant motion, and endless stimulation, silence is often misunderstood. People see silence as a void, an absence, a lack of something. They associate it with loneliness, boredom, or irrelevance. But Buddhism teaches us something radically different, that silence is not emptiness. Silence is the space where truth begins. Silence is the mirror where your true self is finally seen clearly. Most people are afraid of silence, though they may not say it. When the external noise fades, when there is no screen glowing, no voice speaking, no task to distract the mind, they begin to feel a strange discomfort. They reach for their phone, they turn on the television, they call someone, anything to escape the stillness. But what they are truly running from is not silence, it is themselves. Because in silence, the mind begins to speak, and what it says can be startling. Unprocessed emotions rise. Forgotten memories float to the surface. The insecurities, the fears, the unresolved grief, they all emerge when the noise stops. But this is not a mistake. It is a purification, a cleansing, a return. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the path to peace begins not in gaining more, but in quieting what already is. The mind is like a lake. When agitated, it cannot reflect anything clearly. But when still, it becomes a perfect mirror. Silence is the stillness that allows this reflection. It reveals the false stories you've been telling yourself. It exposes the illusions you've clung to. It softens the inner war you didn't even know you were fighting. And in that gentle softening, a deeper truth begins to rise, not as a shout, but as a whisper that has always been there, waiting. Your true self does not need to prove, compare, chase, or impress. It does not need constant affirmation. It is not addicted to noise. It is simple, quiet, present, and it lives underneath the loudness of your thoughts. You cannot hear it through chaos. You cannot connect to it while rushing. You must enter silence not with fear, but with reverence. Because the silence you avoid is the home of your deepest clarity. Spiritual masters throughout time have honored silence, not as the absence of something, but as the presence of everything that truly matters. In silence, you meet your breath not just as an unconscious function, but as a sacred rhythm. You meet your body not just as a machine, but as a living, breathing temple. You meet your heart not just as an emotional organ, but as a compass guiding you toward truth. You meet your mind not to fight it, but to understand it. And finally, you meet your soul not as a distant concept, but as a real and present source of light within. Silence teaches you to listen, not to reply, but to receive. To listen not only to others, but to the subtle voice of your own being. In silence, you begin to distinguish between the voice of ego and the voice of intuition, between fear-based urgency and quiet inner knowing, between what the world wants from you and what your soul is asking for. This is not easy. It requires patience, courage, a willingness to sit with discomfort instead of fleeing from it, but the reward is priceless. Because once you begin to recognize your own voice beneath the conditioning, you are no longer lost. You begin to walk your own path not in rebellion, but in alignment. Silence is also healing. It holds what words cannot. Sometimes the most profound shifts in your life will not come from books or conversations, but from moments of stillness. A walk under the stars where your mind finally slows. A morning with no noise, just sunlight and breath. A pause between tasks where clarity suddenly dawns. Healing does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like doing nothing and allowing everything to unfold from within. To embrace silence, you must create space for it. Not once, but daily. You must learn to protect quiet moments as sacred, not as something to be filled. Start your day with silence, not with scrolling. Sit in stillness before you enter the world. Let your thoughts settle. Let your breath lead. Even 5 minutes can transform your entire day. Throughout your day, return to that stillness whenever you feel scattered. Even in the middle of chaos, silence is available not outside, but inside. When you speak, speak with awareness. When you listen, listen without preparing your next reply. When you rest, rest without stimulation. Let silence enter your relationships too. Not every space must be filled. Presence is louder than words, a calm gaze, a gentle touch, a shared moment of breath. These are more nourishing than 1,000 rushed conversations. In time, silence becomes your teacher. It shows you what matters. It reveals what is real. It softens your reactions. It grounds your presence. It expands your awareness. And perhaps most importantly, it connects you to the Divinano as a distant deity, but as a living pulse within you. In silence, you do not feel alone. You feel connected to the earth, to life, to the infinite intelligence that moves through everything. Understand this: the world will always be noisy. You cannot control the outer volume, but you can control the inner response. You can build a sanctuary within a quiet center, untouched by the storm. And that sanctuary is not built through external success. It is built through inner stillness, through returning again and again to the silent space within you that does not need anything to be different. It simply is. So do not fear silence. Do not fill every moment. Do not run from the discomfort of your own presence. Instead, lean in, be still, listen, and allow the silence to guide you not away from life, but into it more deeply. Because in the end, it is not in speaking more that you understand yourself. It is in listening deeply, quietly, courageously. And in that silence, you find not emptiness, but the home you've been searching for all along. Your ego is not who you are, it's who you think you have to be. There is a quiet tension that lives in most people, a subtle weight on their shoulders, a mask on their face, a tightness in the chest that they cannot explain. It's not always loud, but it's there when they speak, when they compare, when they seek approval, when they try to prove themselves again and again. This tension is not caused by who they truly are, but by who they believe they must be. Buddhism calls this illusion the ego, not as pride alone, but as a false identity constructed out of fear, conditioning, and constant effort to protect a fragile sense of self. The ego is not evil. It is not something to hate. It is a creation of the mind designed to keep you safe. But in keeping you safe, it often keeps you small. It tells you to be liked instead of being real, to chase success instead of peace, to win arguments instead of listening, to look confident even when you feel lost. The ego builds a wall between you and your true self, and then convinces you that the wall is you. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the ego is like a garment you wear for so long that you forget it's not your skin. You begin to believe that your identity, your job, your appearance, your achievements, your titles, your past is the whole truth of who you are. But it's not. These are just roles, temporary roles. The real you is deeper, quieter, not defined by external labels, but revealed in silence. It is not what changes, it is what sees the change. If you want to know how attached you are to ego, observe your reactions. When someone disrespects you, does your anger rise instantly? That's ego defending itself. When someone else succeeds and you feel diminished, that's ego comparing. When you make a mistake and spiral into shame, that's ego feeling threatened. When you are terrified to be misunderstood, judged, or unseen, that is ego trying to survive by controlling perception. But here's the liberating truth. You are not your ego. You are not the voice that says you're failing. You are not the fear of judgment. You are not the story of your past, the image you show the world, or the illusion of who you think you must be. You are the awareness behind it all, the still, observing consciousness that sees the roles and remains untouched. When you begin to recognize the ego for what it is, a mental construct, you no longer need to destroy it. You simply stop obeying it. You stop feeding it with endless comparison, validation seeking, and attachment to image. And as you do, something incredible begins to happen. You become lighter, freer, softer. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to be right all the time. You no longer need to prove your worth, because you realize you were already whole all along. The ego thrives in noise and identity, but the soul thrives in presence and simplicity. When you sit in silence and observe your thoughts without reacting, your ego loses power. It cannot survive when you no longer believe every thought it sends. It cannot rule you when you see through its patterns. The ego wants to protect yourself, but the soul wants to dissolve all separation and return to unity with yourself, with others, with life. Buddhism invites you not to fight your ego, but to see it, to watch how it operates, to smile gently when it shows up, to breathe through its fear, to choose your deeper self, even when your ego is screaming for attention. And this is not weakness, this is the highest strength, because anyone can yell back, posture, or defend. But it takes great strength to remain rooted in stillness when your ego is shaking. It takes great strength to respond with compassion when your ego demands revenge. It takes deep wisdom to remain small in the eyes of the world, yet large in the presence of your own soul. When you live from ego, you are constantly performing. Every room becomes a stage. Every interaction becomes a transaction. You say what you think others want to hear. You hide your vulnerability. You exaggerate your wins and hide your wounds. But when you begin to dissolve ego, you become real, honest, grounded. You no longer try to impress others. You express yourself from a place of truth. And even when that truth is quiet, it is powerful because it is free. You will still feel the ego arise from time to time. That's okay. You are not trying to eliminate it completely. You are learning to live with awareness. The ego may whisper, "You're falling behind." Awareness answers, "I walk in my own time." Ego says, "They're judging you." Awareness says, "Let them. I am not here to be understood. I am here to be whole." Ego says, "You must control everything." Awareness smiles, "Let it flow. What is meant for me will not miss me." As ego dissolves, life becomes simpler. You no longer seek meaning through external validation. You find it in quiet mornings, in the sound of the wind, in the warmth of a kind word, in doing something beautiful even when no one is watching. You begin to trust life more, not because you've figured it all out, but because your inner world is no longer in conflict with itself. You no longer fight the world because you've made peace with yourself. And what happens when you live without ego? You become light, open, available, present. You don't carry the weight of image or expectation. You don't overthink your every move. You don't shrink when misunderstood. You radiate an energy that is rare because it is real. You give without needing to be seen. You listen without needing to speak. You serve without needing credit. You love without needing control. And this, in the deepest sense, is freedom. This is what Buddhism points toward, not the destruction of the self, but the unmasking of the false self so that your true self can finally breathe. The ego will always try to reappear. It will wear new disguises. But the more aware you become, the more gently you can say, "I see you, but I no longer follow you." You are not here to become a better version of your ego. You are here to remember the self that needs no version at all. True peace doesn't come when life is silent, it comes when your mind is. Many people spend their entire lives chasing peace as if it's a destination. They wait for the perfect moment, the quiet house, the solved problems, the complete success, the healed relationship, the tidy life. They think, when everything calms down, then I'll be at peace. When everyone understands me, when I have enough money, when I figure it all out, then I'll finally rest. But Buddhism gently reveals the truth. Peace is not something that comes from outside. It's something that blooms inside, regardless of what happens around you. The great mistake is believing that peace is the absence of noise, that if you eliminate all chaos, all struggle, all distraction, then stillness will arrive. But life never becomes perfectly silent. The world is not designed for constant calm. Storms come, people change, unexpected things happen. The noise out there will always fluctuate. You cannot control it. But what you can control is the quality of your mind. You can learn to quiet the storm within even while the storm outside continues. Peace is not about escaping noise, it is about transforming your relationship to it. A peaceful mind is not one that never hears chaos. It is one that no longer lets chaos dictate its center. Think of a tree standing in heavy wind. Its branches may sway, its leaves may scatter, but its roots stay planted. That root is your awareness. That trunk is your practice. And the deeper your inner root, the more gracefully you can stand even in the wildest wind. The untrained mind is like a radio left on all day, blasting commentary, complaints, worries, judgments, comparisons, and fears. This constant mental noise creates suffering, not because life is hard, but because we don't know how to turn the volume down. Most people live as prisoners of their thoughts. They don't think their thoughts, they are thought by them. A trigger happens, and their mind spins. A comment is made, and their mood collapses. A fear appears, and they are paralyzed. This is not peace, it is reactivity. But Buddhism offers a way out. It says, train the mind, and peace follows not someday, but now. This begins with observation. You must learn to watch the mind instead of drowning in it. Notice the moments when your mind begins to run, when it replays the past, when it imagines a future disaster, when it overanalyzes, when it critiques you mercilessly. Do not resist it. Do not judge it. Just watch it as you would watch a child throwing a tantrum. Watch with patience, with softness, with understanding. And in that gentle watching, the mind begins to calm. The breath becomes your anchor. Each inhale brings you to this moment. Each exhale lets go of something you don't need. You begin to realize that peace is not a faraway template, is in the rise and fall of your chest. In the way you bring your awareness back, again and again. In the way you choose presence over panic, stillness over story, truth over thought. And here is what's even more profound. When your mind becomes peaceful, your entire world begins to reflect that peace back to you. Not because the world changes, but because your lens does. You see differently. You speak differently. You listen with more depth. You react less and respond more. You create space between stimulus and response, and in that space, freedom is born. You begin to carry peace, not as a fragile hope, but as an unshakable presence. Imagine being in the middle of a noisy marketplace, but feeling calm. Imagine facing uncertainty, but not crumbling. Imagine hearing criticism, but remaining centered. That is the power of a peaceful mind. It is a sanctuary that goes wherever you go. It cannot be taken from you. It cannot be shaken by temporary chaos, because it is not based on control, it is based on clarity. This peace does not mean you don't feel. You still grieve, you still love deeply, you still care, but you are no longer ruled by emotions. You let them pass like waves, instead of clinging or resisting. You are no longer in a constant war with what is. You begin to accept things as they are, not out of passivity, but out of wisdom, because acceptance is not giving up, it is the beginning of clear action. To cultivate this peace, you must make time for silence, for stillness, for returning to yourself. You must step away from constant stimulation, not to avoid life, but to meet it more fully. Give yourself moments each day where you sit, breathe, and simply be. Let your mind empty, let your breath deepen, let your body soften. Over time, this becomes your reset, your refuge, your strength. Surround yourself with reminders of peace, not just serene environments, but peaceful people, wise words, sacred rituals. What you surround yourself with shapes your inner landscape. Tend to your inner garden like it matters, because it does. What you plant in the mind grows in your life. Plant stillness, plant gratitude, plant compassion. Watch them take root. Also, forgive often. Nothing clutters the mind like resentment. Let go of old arguments, of imagined enemies, of wounds you revisit over and over. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, it means choosing peace over poison. It means freeing yourself, not approving what happened. Because peace and bitterness cannot share the same space. One must go for the other to grow. And most of all, remember this. Peace is your original nature. It is not something to earn. It is not a luxury. It is your birthright. You do not need the world to become silent to find it. You only need to remove what blocks I told stories, reactive patterns, unnecessary fears. Underneath all the noise, all the chasing, all the pressure, you are already whole, already enough, already still. The more you return to that truth, the more the noise fades. Not because it disappears, but because you no longer need it to. The journey is not about becoming more, it's about becoming less. Modern life constantly tells you that you must become more to be enough, more successful, more productive, more attractive, more impressive, more confident, more liked, more important. The message is everywhere. You are not enough unless you add something. And so, from a young age, you begin to build. You build identities, masks, achievements, routines, roles. You try to fix your flaws, improve your image, chase perfection. But the more you add, the heavier you feel. The more you chase, the further peace seems to drift away. But Buddhism whispers a sacred truth that cuts through all this noise. The path is not about becoming more. The path is about becoming less. Less of what you are not. Less of what was never you. Less of what the world told you to be. Less ego, less attachment, less noise, less pretending. Not to lose yourself, but to finally reveal what has always been there hidden beneath the layers. This is the way of unlearning. You are not here to become a new person. You are here to peel away the illusions that cover the truth of who you are. You are not here to decorate your soul with borrowed identities. You are here to cleanse it gently, patiently, honestly, to remove the dust of conditioning, to take off the armor of expectation, to let go of the masks that have hardened over time. This is not the work of adding. It is the sacred practice of letting go. Begin by asking yourself gently, what have I been carrying that no longer belongs to me? What roles have I accepted to be loved? What stories am I repeating that were never mine? What habits are based in fear, not truth? These questions are not to shame you. They are keys. Keys to unlock the door between your constructed self and your real self. You may discover that much of what you believe is simply repetition. Ideas inherited from childhood, pain passed down from others, fear born from a single moment long ago that you never questioned. You may realize that the identity you fight to protect is not actually yours. It was given to you, encouraged, rewarded, but not chosen. And here lies the freedom. You can release it all. Not at once, not with violence, but with presence, with awareness, with grace. You begin to dissolve a knot in a painful way, but like mist melting in sunlight. The need to impress, it softens. The need to compare, it fades. The compulsion to explain yourself, defend yourself, prove yourself, it begins to disappear. You realize you don't need to be understood by everyone. You don't need to be amazing all the time. You don't need to be seen to be real. You simply need to be here, present, aligned, true. This shedding is not weakness. It is not regression. It is evolution in reverse return, not a retreat. A return to what is simple, natural, real, like the way a tree lets go of leaves in autumn. Not because it is dying, but because it trusts the cycle of life. It knows that in letting go, something deeper can grow. The more you let go, the more you begin to feel space inside. Space to breathe, to rest, to feel, to listen. You become less reactive, more grounded, less controlling, more trusting, less armored, more open. You stop trying to hold everything together. You stop gripping so tightly. You let the river carry you. You let the day unfold. You stop pushing so hard to be someone and you start being. In this way, Buddhism teaches the principle of emptiness not as a negative thing, but as profound possibility. Emptiness is the space where awareness lives, where clarity arises, where joy visits. When you are full of tension, judgment, distraction, desire, there is no room for anything sacred. But when you empty the cup, the light pours in. And as you become less, paradoxically, you begin to shine more. Not in a loud way, not in a performance, but in presence. People feel your calm, your depth, your truth. They are drawn not to what you say, but to the space you hold. Not to what you have, but to how you carry yourself. You become a reminder without trying for others to return to their own center, and that, quietly, is how the world changes. But this path is not without resistance. The ego will panic. It will say, if I let go, I'll disappear. If I stop trying, I'll fall behind. If I stop being everything for everyone, I'll be forgotten. These are not the voice of your soul. These are echoes of fear, and fear cannot see clearly. You must breathe through it, return again and again to trust. You do not need to collapse to be seen. You do not need to hustle to be worthy. You do not need to be everything to be whole. As you release more, you become more sensitive and not in a weak way, but in an awake way. You start to notice things you used to miss. The way the light touches your skin, the pause between sounds, the feeling in your heart when you sit still, the depth of a single breath, the beauty of doing one thing with full attention. This sensitivity is not a burden, it is a gift. It is the return of aliveness. Eventually, you begin to see that the path of less was never about loss. It was about freedom. Freedom from pretending, from pleasing, from proving. Freedom from the noise that says, you must always be more. You are not here to build a more impressive image. You are here to build a more spacious soul. You are not here to rise above life. You are here to sink more deeply into it. Not by becoming more, but by becoming less. And in that lessness, you find everything that matters. Stop chasing enlightenment, start living in awareness. Many seekers begin their journey with a longing to become enlightened. They read books, follow teachers, practice techniques, attend retreats, and try to collect moments of peace like rare treasures. They imagine enlightenment as some final destination, peak beyond suffering, a permanent state of bliss, a moment when all confusion dissolves and they become untouchable, perfect, wise. But Buddhism gently reminds us of a profound truth. Enlightenment is not something you chase, it is something you remember, something you uncover, something that is already hidden beneath the layers of distraction. The more you chase, the further it seems. The more you grasp for peace, the more anxious you become. The more you try to be spiritually perfect, the more disconnected you feel. Why? Because the very act of chasing takes you away from the present moment. It creates a future-based illusion. I am not there yet. And with that thought, you separate yourself from your own awakening. But true spiritual growth is not a race. It is not a badge. It is not something to perform or prove. It is not found in exotic rituals or distant places. It is found in presence, in silence, in awareness, in the way you show up to each moment without needing it to be different, in how honestly you meet your own heart, in how gently you listen to your breath, in how patiently you treat your fears, in how fully you allow yourself to just be. Buddhism doesn't offer a finish line, it offers a path. And the beauty of this path is that it is not linear. You do not move forward by climbing higher. You move deeper by sinking inward, by slowing down, by observing your own mind again and again without judgment, by being fully alive in this ordinary, sacred now. To live in awareness means to see clearly without filters, without projections, without needing every moment to fit your expectations. It means watching your thoughts arise without grabbing them, feeling emotions without being owned by them, walking through your day not as a machine, but as a conscious being who is awake to the unfolding mystery of life. Enlightenment is not a glow on your face. It is the way you listen when someone is hurting, the way you wash a dish with full attention, the way you breathe through discomfort instead of escaping it, the way you notice your thoughts and return to stillness, the way you accept the imperfection of your humanness with tenderness. In this way, enlightenment is not a state you achieve, it is a state you allow. It is the quiet presence beneath your striving. It is the natural clarity that returns when you stop trying to force everything. A flower does not rush its blooming. A river does not chase the ocean. The moon does not hurry to complete its cycle. They all unfold in rhythm with their nature, and you too are nature. You do not need to accelerate your awakening. You need to align with it. Trust that it is already happening in every breath you take with awareness, every time you bring your attention back to this moment, every time you respond with love instead of fear. Sometimes you will feel deeply connected, other times lost and confused. This is not failure, it is the path. The mind is like the sky, sometimes clear, sometimes cloudy. But beneath it all, your awareness remains. The clouds do not destroy the sky. Your distractions do not destroy your potential. They only veil it for a while. Stop measuring your progress by how still your mind is. Measure it by how quickly you return to awareness when you forget. That return is your strength. That return is your real practice. That return is the sign that awakening is not ahead of you, is within you. Be wary of chasing experiences, visions, sensations, moments of bliss. These are beautiful, but they are not the goal. They come and go. They are like fireworks, bright, exciting, but fleeting. Do not cling to them. True awakening is quieter, more subtle. It grows slowly, like roots. It is not in the highs, but in the depth of your grounding. It is not in what you feel, it is in how you see. When you live in awareness, life itself becomes your teacher. Every moment offers something. A delay teaches patience. A painful memory teaches compassion. A disagreement reveals where your ego still hides. A moment of beauty teaches gratitude. A single breath reveals everything, the impermanence of life, the miracle of being, the truth of presence. You begin to see that there is no spiritual life and normal life. There is only life, and all of it can be sacred. Folding laundry, driving through traffic, sitting in grief, laughing with a friend, cooking a meal, staring at the sky. These are not obstacles to awakening. These are awakening if you are fully present in them. The sacred is not elsewhere. It is here, now. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness in every aspect of life, not just sitting on a cushion. He taught walking meditation, eating meditation, breathing meditation, because the point is not to escape the world. The point is to wake up within it. to meet each moment with open eyes, open heart, open awareness. You will forget. Many times, your mind will wander, your ego will return. Old patterns will rise. That's okay. Do not shame yourself. Do not compare your journey to others. Just return. Softly, patiently, with love. That return is the path. That return is the practice. And one day, without fanfare, you will notice something beautiful. That you no longer chase peace, you live it. That you no longer seek validation, you rest in truth. That you no longer crave escape, you are at home in the now. That even in the middle of noise, you carry silence within. That even when pain visits, you do not collapse, you remain rooted. This is enlightenment, not a destination but a way of being. You are not here to become something else. You are here to remember what you already are. Not by chasing, but by returning, again and again, to this breath, to this moment, to this sacred awareness. The final illusion to break. There is nowhere else to be but here. From the moment we begin to think, we are taught to live in movement, to go somewhere, to become someone, to arrive at something. We are told to plan ahead, to prepare, to push forward. And so we grow up chasing the horizon, imagining that peace, happiness and wholeness live just beyond the next goal, the next achievement, the next moment. We learn to live in almost. Almost good enough, almost fulfilled, almost there, but never quite here. This is the final illusion, the belief that there is something missing in this moment, that we must be somewhere else, someone else, doing something else, before we are finally allowed to rest. But Buddhism tells us gently, firmly, and with great compassion, there is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to become. The present moment is not a stepping stone to life, it is life. This truth is simple, yet radically difficult for the untrained mind. The ego thrives on future. It survives by saying, not yet healed, not yet ready, not yet happy. It promises peace after the next milestone, but the more you walk toward it, the more it moves away. The finish line always shifts. The mind that is addicted to striving can never enjoy arriving, because it never actually arrives. So you must stop. You must stop, not as a failure, but as an awakening. Stop running from your life as it is. Stop postponing your inner peace until the outer world cooperates. Stop waiting for permission to feel whole. Right now, in this breath, everything you need is already here. This breath is not preparing you for life, it is life. This moment is not the rehearsal, it is the stage. But to realize this, you must slow down not just in body, but in awareness. You must soften the compulsive momentum of your thoughts. You must untangle the belief that something better is always somewhere else. You must begin to meet your life exactly where it is, not where you wish it to be. That is the beginning of presence. Presence is not a spiritual idea. It is a practice, a return, a constant, conscious anchoring to the now. And this does not require a perfect environment. You don't need silence, incense, mountains, or robes. You only need your attention. You only need your willingness to be with what is. And what is what is? It is the sound around you, the feeling in your chest, the rhythm of your breath, the thought in your head, the tension in your body, the subtle ache in your heart, the breeze, the warmth, the scent, the silence, the movement. It is this. The now is not always soft. Sometimes it is uncomfortable, but even pain becomes lighter when met fully. It is the resistance that hurts more than the sensation. The trying to push it away, escape it, delay it, or fix it before we've even understood it. The Buddha did not teach presence as a luxury. He taught it as the foundation of liberation. Suffering begins when we abandon the now, when we cling to the past or chase the future. When we say, "This shouldn't be," instead of asking, "What is here for me to see?" Presence doesn't mean everything feels good. It means everything is met with honesty, with breath, with space, with compassion. To live in presence is to dismantle the illusion of there. To say, "There is no better moment coming. There is only this one. I will not waste it waiting. I will not rush through it looking for the next. I will not treat this breath as a bridge. I will live inside it, completely." This is the final breaking of illusion, the end of spiritual striving. Not because growth has ended, but because wholeness has been recognized. Growth continues, yes. Lessons continue. But now they unfold inside peace, not as a path to peace. When you live this way, everything changes subtly but profoundly. You eat more slowly. You listen more deeply. You touch more tenderly. You speak more carefully. You laugh more freely. You cry more truthfully. You breathe more gratefully. Life does not need to be extraordinary to be sacred. It only needs your attention. The mind will still try to leave. That is its habit. But now you will notice. Now you will return. Again and again. Each return is a holy act. A quiet victory. A reconnection with what was never lostly forgotten. When you train yourself to remain here, you begin to feel life again, not as concept, but as sensation. The way sunlight touches your skin, the sound of your own footsteps, the pause between words, the weight of your body as it rests. These things become portals, not to more, but to enough. Presence is the end of waiting, waiting for someone to change, waiting for the past to make sense, waiting for success, waiting for clarity, waiting for the world to calm down. Presence says, "This is enough. I am enough. Now is enough." And when that is realized not just intellectually, but deep in the bones, you find something greater than enlightenment. You find peace. You find wholeness not as a destination, but as your nature. You are not becoming anything. You are returning to what is simple, to what is real, to what has always been silently waiting beneath your thoughts. This return is not dramatic. It is quiet. You may be folding laundry, washing your face, walking alone, and suddenly, without any grand event, you realize, "I am not searching anymore." Because what you were searching for was never far away. It was always in this breath, in this moment, in this space between thoughts, in this awareness looking out through your eyes. You just didn't know how to stop long enough to see it. But now you do. And now you are free. The quiet strength of letting things be. There is a deep and ancient wisdom buried beneath the surface of our daily lives. It is not taught in schools, not praised in boardrooms, not glamorized on screens. It speaks in a whisper, often unheard beneath the clamor of doing, fixing, changing, chasing. This wisdom is not about doing more. It is not about controlling more. It is not about mastering your circumstances or bending the world to your will. Noit is the gentle, powerful art of letting things be. To the modern mind, this sounds like weakness, like giving up, like passivity. But to the awakened heart, letting things be is not surrender to defeat it, is surrender to reality. And in that surrender lies freedom deeper than any victory, peace stronger than any plan, and strength quieter than any shout. Buddhism teaches that suffering begins not with pain, but with resistance, not with difficulty, but with our refusal to allow what already is. We do not suffer because life is imperfect. We suffer because we demand that it be different, that people be different, that we be different. And every time we fight what is, we lose not the battle, but our peace. Every should becomes a weight. Every "why is it this way?" becomes a rope that binds us to a pain that could have passed through use if only we allowed it. Letting things be does not mean apathy. It does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you abandon responsibility. It means you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop trying to force the river to flow in the direction your ego demands. You allow people to be where they are on their journey. You allow your emotions to arise without judgment. You allow yourself to feel, to grieve, to stumble, without punishing yourself for not always being composed or enlightened. This is not laziness. It is presence. It is choosing to stay grounded in the now rather than racing toward some imagined better. It is choosing to trust the unfolding, even when you don't understand it. It is choosing to soften when every part of your ego wants to tense. And this softening, this sacred letting go is not a single act. It is a practice, a lifetime of learning to unclench your fists, of releasing the grip on expectations, of watching thoughts rise and fall without clinging to them, of allowing feelings to flow without drowning in them, of facing what is without needing to label it good or bad, just letting it be. There is quiet strength in that. To let someone walk away and not beg them to stay because you trust what leaves was not meant to remain. To feel sadness and not distract yourself because you know it is sacred too. To fail and not spiral into shame because you no longer measure yourself by outcomes. To stand in uncertainty and not rush for answers because you have come to see that not knowing is not the enemy. To let go of the old story and not replace it with a new illusion because you are learning to live without a script. In this space of allowing, transformation begins not because you forced it, but because you made room for it. The lotus doesn't bloom because it tries. It blooms because the conditions allow it to. And you too are nature. You grow best in space, not in pressure. Letting things be is not the end of effort, it is the beginning of aligned effort. When you stop wasting energy resisting life, you gain the energy to participate in it fully, not as a controller, but as a co-creator. You no longer act out of panic, fear, or urgency. You act from clarity, from groundedness, from the center of your being, where stillness lives. This way of being is not taught by force, but by experience. It is learned when you try everything to fix your pain and realize that the pain is not asking to be fixed, it's asking to be felt. It is learned when you push and push and push and finally collapse into the truth that peace cannot be pushed into place. It must be allowed to emerge, gently, like dawn rising after the night has had its say. This is why the greatest teachers sit in silence, why the Buddha did not build empires but simply sat. Because when you let things be, when you stop chasing, grasping, resisting, what remains is not nothingness. What remains is your natural state, spacious, open, aware, at peace. Letting things be also applies to yourself. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a mystery to be honored. Yes, there is healing to do. Yes, there are habits to transform, but not all at once. Not under the whip of self-judgment. You are allowed to grow slowly. You are allowed to be inconsistent. You are allowed to be human. There is a deep breath waiting for you beneath every moment of tightness, a soft place beneath every harsh expectation, a stillness beneath the noise. You only need to stop, to pause, to rest your hand on your heart and whisper, "It's okay. I don't have to fix this right now. I can just let it be." And then watch what happens. Sometimes the problem dissolves on its own. Sometimes the tension melts. Sometimes the insight you were grasping for arrives effortlessly. And even if it doesn't, even if nothing changes, you change. You become softer, more spacious, more at peace. And in that space, you begin to liven not from the head, but from the heart. Not from fear, but from trust. Not from needing to control, but from the freedom of surrender. This does not mean your life becomes passive. On the contrary, it becomes more alive. Because you are no longer fighting life, you are flowing with it. You are no longer trying to shape the wave, you are surfing it. You are no longer bracing for every moment, you are meeting it with open palms. Letting things be is an act of deep respect for yourself, for others, for life. It is choosing to be present without condition. It is choosing to love without possession. It is choosing to see without distortion. And it is choosing to live not in the imagined perfection of the future, but in the raw, sacred truth of now. So the next time your heart feels tight, your mind races, your plans fall apart, pause. Feel your breath. Soften your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. And whisper gently, let it be. Let this moment be what it is. Let life be what it is. Let yourself be as you are. And watch as the peace you were chasing begins to rise not from the outside, but from within. Not because everything became perfect, but because you finally stopped trying to force it to be. The most powerful truth: you already have everything you were searching for. You've walked so far, through chaos and stillness, through pain and healing, through confusion and clarity, through the noise of the world and the silence of your soul. You've searched high and low within books, within people, within philosophies, within dreams for something that would finally feel like home, some final answer, some state of being that would finally make the puzzle complete. And maybe you believed that if you read enough, healed enough, worked enough, disciplined yourself enough, meditated enough, suffered enough, you would eventually arrive. That there would be a point, somewhere down the path, when the doubts would vanish, the mind would go silent, the questions would all be answered, and you would stand at the summit of life and say, "This is it. I am done." But Buddhism gently, tenderly opens your hand and shows you the truth that changes everything, not in a sudden flash, but like sunlight slowly filling a quiet room. There is nothing left to seek. You already have what you were searching for. You always did. The mind, conditioned by years of striving, resists this truth. It says, that can't be. I'm still not enlightened. I'm still not perfect. I still fall apart. I still feel sadness. I still don't know what I'm doing. But peace doesn't wait for perfection. Joy doesn't wait for your mind to become flawless. Fulfillment doesn't come from eliminating pain. These things are not rewards for the future. You find them when you begin to look directly at this moment and say, what if? I already have what I need. You already have the breath. You already have the awareness. You already have the silence within you. You already have the capacity to love, to rest, to create, to heal. You already have the still point from which all wisdom arises. The journey was never about becoming someone new. It was always about remembering who you already are beneath the masks, beneath the stories, beneath the endless seeking. The teachings were never meant to give you something. They were meant to strip away everything that distracted you from seeing that you lack nothing. The meditation was never meant to make you more spiritual. It was meant to help you sit quietly enough to hear your own soul whisper, I'm still here. I never left. You are not a broken thing that needs to be rebuilt. You are a beautiful, ancient presence that forgot its own light. All your life, you've been looking out there through eyes trained to scan the horizon. You thought meaning was somewhere else. You thought God lived in temples. You thought peace waited at the end of some path. You thought worth was something you had to earn. But the greatest masters in history said otherwise. They pointed not to heaven, not to the mountaintop, but to the space between your thoughts, to the quiet watcher behind your eyes, to the breath you've been breathing all along. This is the final turn in the journey. Not outward, but inward, homeward, not toward more, but toward enoughness. This is the moment where the path begins to dissolve, not because you've failed, but because you finally see that you are standing on sacred ground and you always were. The path was never taking you to a different place. It was simply clearing away the dust so you could realize you were already home. There's a story in Zen of a student who traveled to ask a master the ultimate question, "What is the meaning of life?" The master didn't answer with words. He simply poured the student a cup of tea. And when the cup was full, he kept pouring. Tea spilled over the edges. The student shouted, "Stop! The cup is full!" The master looked at him gently and said, "Yes, just like your mind, you are already full, but you cannot receive this truth because you are too full of your own seeking." This story is not about giving up. It is about waking up. Waking up to the idea that you are not here to add more. You are here to empty yourself of illusions, of not enough, of someday, of when I arrive. And when that emptiness becomes spacious, soft, open, you begin to feel what has always been here, a quiet joy, a quiet love, a quiet knowing that you are already connected, already whole, already held by life itself. You already have the strength to face what hurts. You already have the wisdom to guide yourself forward. You already have the light that will carry you through darkness. You already have the peace that sits silently beneath every storm. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are simply unfolding in your own time, in your own way. You don't need to become better. You need to become real. You don't need to chase awakening. You need to remember the presence that has always been with you, even in your confusion, even in your despair. When you stop striving, when you stop reaching, when you stop waiting for life to become something else, you realize you are already here, not because everything outside is perfect, but because inside the war is over. And in that space, where the war ends and the breath begins, you meet life not as a problem to solve, but as a mystery to experience. Not as a ladder to climb, but as a sacred dance, constantly changing, constantly offering, constantly reminding you, you are already enough. Not someday. Now. And when you live from that knowing, your life becomes something else entirely. Every small moment becomes a miracle. Every person becomes a reflection. Every breath becomes a gift. Every task becomes a ritual. Every word becomes more honest. Every silence becomes more profound. You stop waiting for life. You start living it, fully, consciously, lovingly, just as it is. Not because everything is easy, but because now you are no longer running. You are no longer lost. You have remembered. You have come home. To your own presence. To your own breath. To the truth that you already have everything you were searching for. The most silent realization. You were never separate from anything. From the very beginning, we are taught to believe in separateness. You are this body, I am that body. You are your name, your story, your face, your past. I am mine. We are born into definitions, into labels, into borders and beliefs. We are told that the self ends at the skin, that we are individuals walking through a world of others. And while this may be true in appearance, it is not the deeper truth. It is not what the great teachers saw when they sat in silence and opened their hearts wider than thought. Buddhism, in its most sacred whispers, teaches that the greatest illusion is separation, and the most silent, powerful awakening is the one that shows you you were never separate from anything at all. Not from others, not from nature, not from the universe, not from peace, not even from the divine. All the walls were imagined, all the lines were drawn in sand. All the distance was a dream your mind painted, trying to make sense of a world it believed it had to survive. But in reality, there is no in here and out there, no me and not me. There is just this one field of being, endlessly unfolding, infinitely connected. You are not the wave crashing on the shore. You are the ocean, expressing itself as a wave. You are not a single tree in the forest. You are the forest becoming form for a little while. You are not just a human being trying to make sense of the universe. You are the universe remembering itself through a human form. And the moment this truth touches your heart, not just your mind, you begin to soften. You begin to return to the flow. You begin to live, not as an isolated self trying to conquer life, but as a living breath inside the sacred whole. This is not a mystical belief. It is a lived experience. You feel it in meditation when the boundaries begin to blur. You feel it in deep presence when you lose track of where your skin ends and the air begins. You feel it in grief when someone you love dies, and yet you still feel them in every sunset. You feel it in joy when your laughter fills the room and connects everyone in it. You feel it in nature when the sound of the wind speaks to something inside you that has no name. This is not magic. It is your original state, before thought, before ego, before fear. It is the place you come from and the place you return to. So why did you ever feel separate? Because the mind believes in identity. It says, this is me, this is mine, that is other. It creates borders to protect the illusion of control. It defines the self so it can defend it. And in doing so, it begins to see the world as something outside of itself, something to judge, to compare with, to fear, to fix, to dominate, or to escape. But when the mind becomes quiet, when awareness deepens beyond thought, something else arises. A sense that you are not behind your eyes, you are in the eyes of every being. That the breath moving through you is the same breath moving through the trees. That the space between you and everything else is not empty, it is you, too. This is what the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree. Not just that suffering comes from attachment, but that attachment is born from the illusion of a separate self. And that when the self dissolves not in death, but in presence, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is oneness. To live this truth is not to stop being you. You still eat, you still speak, you still feel, but you live from a deeper place. You become like a wave that knows it is the sea. You still rise. You still fall. But you are no longer afraid because you know that beneath every rise and fall, you are held by something infinite, something that cannot be named, only felt. This feeling brings deep compassion, because once you know you are not separate from others, how can you harm them? Their pain is your pain, their joy is your joy. When you look into another's eyes and see yourself, kindness becomes natural, forgiveness becomes easier. Judgment loses its bite, love stops needing permission. You are no longer loving someone. You are simply loving because that's who you are. This realization also brings peace. You no longer feel the need to fix everything. You understand that life is not broken. It is complex, mysterious, painful, beautiful, but not broken. You are no longer trying to win, no longer trying to escape, no longer trying to control every outcome. You live more simply, more gently, more quietly. Because you no longer feel separate from the rhythm of life, you are the rhythm. Even fear begins to fade. Because what is fear but the belief that something out there can threaten me in here? But when you see clearly, you realize there is no out there. It is all part of the same dream. And when you wake up within the dream, fear becomes a story that dissolves in the light of presence. To touch this truth is a sacred moment. To live it, moment by moment, is liberation. You do not need to reach it through effort. You do not need to earn it through perfection. You only need to stop and feel. Listen deeply. Watch the breath. Let the noise fall away. And ask gently, Who am I when I stop pretending to be separate? You are not your name, not your story, not your mistakes, not your trauma, not your thoughts, not your achievements, not even your body. You are the stillness that watches it all. You are the presence behind the eyes. You are the vastness between your thoughts. You are the silence from which all things arise and to which all things return. And you were never apart from anything, not from the earth, not from the sky, not from the divine, not from peace, not from love. You only dreamed you were. But now, the dream is ending. Now, you are waking up, not to a new place, but to the truth that never left you. The final mirror. Life reflects what you hold within. There is a stillness within you so vast that it holds the entire sky. There is a quiet in your being so deep that even the stars seem to echo inside it. But most of us never enter that stillness. We are too busy reacting, blaming, struggling, running, looking outward and forgetting the source of everything that touches us begins inward. Buddhism has taught this from the beginning. The world you see is not a separate world, it is a mirror. And what it reflects back to you is not truth, it is your own mind. It is your own beliefs. It is your own wounds. It is your own inner landscape made visible through people, situations, and emotions. The angry person doesn't just see anger in others, they trigger it, they attract it, they interpret everything through it. The anxious heart imagines threats where there are none. The bitter soul sees betrayal in every gesture, but the peaceful heart, it sees peace in places others would miss. The grateful heart sees miracles in moments the world calls ordinary. This is the final mirror. Life reflects what you hold within. When you finally understand this, not just with your intellect, but with your being, you stop trying to rearrange the outer world as a way to find peace. You stop thinking you can manipulate people or outcomes or status to finally feel safe or worthy or fulfilled. You start turning inward and ask the question that opens every door. What is the world showing me about myself right now? If someone's words cut you, ask why that wound is still open. If circumstances overwhelm you, ask what you are believing that robs you of your power. If people keep disrespecting you, ask what part of you keeps inviting them in, keep saying yes when your soul screams no. If nothing ever feels like enough, ask what emptiness inside you is demanding to be filled. This isn't blame. This is radical responsibility. Not responsibility for what others do, but responsibility for how you respond, what you carry, what you hold, what you haven't yet healed. The world is your mirror, yes, but it is also your classroom, and every experience is a teacher. Every emotion is a lesson. Every conflict is a message. Every irritation is a signal that something inside you is asking to be seen, not judged, not punished, but seen. The mind wants to escape pain, to run, to numb, to distract. But pain is just the mirror saying, look here, this is where the work is. And the moment you stop looking outward and turn inward, you begin to shift what the mirror reflects. Because the truth is, the world doesn't change when you yell at it. It changes when you see yourself clearly, when you drop the story, when you drop the blame, when you drop the idea that everything outside of you has to bend so that you can finally feel okay inside. This is not an easy shift. It is humbling. It requires that you admit, much of what I experience is shaped by how I see. Much of what I suffer is maintained by what I carry. Much of what I chase is a reflection of what I think I lack. And once you admit that, the ego trembles because now you hold the power. And with power comes the need for responsibility. You can no longer say, they made me feel this way. You must now say, why did I feel this way? What inside me needs to be healed, loved, released, re-seen. And then the practice begins. You begin to watch, not others, not the news, not the chaos, but yourself. You watch your reactions not to suppress them, but to understand them. You notice your triggers not to blame others, but to trace them back to their root. You observe your patterns not to judge, but to untangle them. You take the mirror seriously. You start seeing every challenge as a reflection of an opportunity to evolve. You stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What is this teaching me about me?" The work becomes sacred, because it's no longer about changing the world, it's about cleaning the mirror, removing the distortions, wiping away the fear, so that what reflects back to you is clarity, wholeness, and peace. And when the mirror becomes clean, something miraculous happens. The people in your life begin to shift, not because they've changed, but because your perception has. You start seeing the pain behind the anger, the longing behind the control, the fear behind the judgment, and instead of reacting, you begin to respond with compassion. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop chasing things that once felt essential but now feel empty. You become centered. You become whole. You become still. And in that stillness, life stops being your enemy. It becomes your ally. Because now you know, whatever it brings for your awakening. The people who annoy you, their presence teaches patience. The uncertainty around you teaches surrender. The heartbreak you carry, it teaches you to love yourself more fiercely. The mistakes you made, they taught you humility. The dreams that didn't work out, they redirected you to something better. It was never about controlling the mirror. It was about transforming what it reflects. And when you commit to that inner transformation, not as a one-time epiphany, but as a daily practice, life begins to soften. You begin to feel more aligned, more empowered, more present. Not because the world became perfect, but because you stopped projecting your wounds onto it. Because you started seeing things as they are, not as your fear paints them. Because you stopped trying to change the mirror, and instead became the change you were begging to see. So, breathe. Stand still. Look deeply into the reflection of this moment. Ask not, "Why is this like this?" but, "What in me is asking to be seen, accepted, healed, or released?" And then listen. Let life speak. It has been reflecting your soul back to you all along. The river is not lost just because it wins. Embracing the non-linear path of awakening. In the silent forests of the soul, far from the paved roads of logic and timelines, there winds a path that does not follow straight lines. It twists, it doubles back, it disappears into fog. Sometimes it climbs, sometimes it drops into the unknown, and to the mind that demands certainty, it looks like failure. It looks like being lost. But look again. This is not failure. This is the nature of rivers. This is the truth of inner awakening. It does not move like a ladder. It moves like water flowing with the land, adjusting to the shape of each moment, bending where it must, returning when it needs to, and carving through rock with patience, not force. The river is not lost just because it turns. And neither are you. In the beginning of the journey, we imagine growth as a straight upward climb. We think, if I just keep meditating, keep reading, keep healing, I will rise higher, better, calmer, wiser every day. But soon we discover the deeper truth. Real growth is not linear. It is cyclical. It is spiral. It is alive. There are days when the light pours through and everything makes sense. When you feel free, open, grounded. You think, this is it, I've found my center. But then, a week later, something stirs an old memory, a wave of sadness, a storm of fear, and suddenly you feel like you've gone backward. You say, "I thought I healed this." You say, "I thought I was past this." You say, "Why am I here again?" But the river whispers, "You are not back where you were. You are visiting the same place from a deeper depth, from a new layer, from a wiser self. This is not regression. This is return. This is refinement. This is the spiral path that circles back not to trap you, but to invite you to meet yourself again, more gently, more completely, more honestly. In Buddhism, this understanding is crucial. The path to liberation is not a race. It is not a checklist. It is not about moving forward as quickly as possible. It is about awakening layer by layer, shedding illusion after illusion, sitting with pain after pain, not to fix it instantly, but to hold it until it reveals its teaching. This is why the Buddha sat, not to escape the cycles, but to see clearly within them. So if you feel like you're circling the same wounds, the same doubts, the same fear spores, breathe, ask not, "Why am I here again?" But, "What have I not yet fully felt? What truth is waiting to be embraced at a deeper level?" Sometimes we revisit old pain not because we failed to heal, but because now finally we are strong enough to hold it with more compassion. Sometimes we feel lost, not because we've lost the way, but because we're being asked to let go of the map. Sometimes the fog descends because it's time to trust the step, not the destination. And in those moments, something sacred begins to happen. You stop treating life like a problem. You stop treating healing like a deadline. You begin to soften, to flow, to allow. You begin to understand that awakening is not a final state, it is a relationship with yourself, with the present, with the mystery. And relationships are not straight lines. They deepen, they unfold, they revisit, they change shape. So does your path. And that's okay. You do not need to always be progressing. You do not need to always be certain. You do not need to always be better. Sometimes the most profound growth is invisible. Sometimes it is simply staying, breathing, witnessing the storm without abandoning yourself. Imagine a river flowing through a mountain valley. From above, you see its winding shape, but from within it, the river knows only the current. It does not question the turns. It does not curse the rocks. It does not demand that the mountain be flat. It flows. It adapts. It allows. And because of that, it carves its way not by force, but by surrender. You are that river, and every twist in your journey has meaning. The days when you feel broken, those are the days when your ego is cracking open to let more light in. The moments when you feel lost, those are the moments when your soul is leading you beyond the known, into something deeper. The setbacks are not detours, they are initiations. They are tests of faith, not in a dogma, but in your own capacity to stay, to feel, to hold yourself through it all. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not starting over. You are exactly where you need to be for the next layer of your awakening to rise. And as you begin to trust this, something inside you shifts. You stop needing the approval of others. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's. You stop measuring your worth by how fast you grow. You stop needing to explain your process. You begin to live it. You begin to trust the silence. You begin to find strength in slowness. You begin to let go of shame. You begin to laugh more, to cry more, to feel more, to be more fully you. Not the perfected version of you. The present version. The honest version. The one who shows up even when it's hard. The one who falls down and gets up again, not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because they know, deep down, that their soul deserves their own devotion. And as you walk this winding path one day, without realizing it, you will look around and notice something beautiful. The river is not confused. The turns have not taken you away from yourself. They've taken you into yourself. You'll see that every season had its reason. Every breakdown held a gift. Every delay carried protection. Every wound opened a door. Every spiral brought you back to the center. And then, just like that, you'll feel it. Peace. Not because everything is resolved. Not because the path straightened out. But because you've made peace with the winding. Because you finally understand. The river is not lost just because it turns. And you are not lost just because your path is not linear. You are becoming. And that becoming is sacred. Let it unfold. The wisdom of slowness. Healing happens in silence, not in speed. The world will tell you that speed is power, that the faster you achieve, the more valuable you are, that success is found in acceleration, in non-stop motion, in never letting a single second go unfilled. But what the world calls progress, the soul often calls noise, and what the world rushes toward, the awakened heart often steps away from. Because deep healing, true clarity, and sacred transformation do not rise in speed. They rise in slowness, in stillness, in the quiet rhythms of nature, of breath, of being. The flower does not bloom faster because you shout at it. The tree does not grow taller because you pull its branches upward. The moon does not rush to fullness. The tide does not hurry. And yet, all of them become what they were meant to be. In this rushing world, slowness has become an act of rebellion. But in the path of awakening, slowness is not rebellion. It is return. It is the return to rhythm, to sanity, to life as it really is, beneath the addiction to urgency. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness, the heart of awakening, is born in presence. And presence cannot exist in haste. You cannot be present and hurried at the same time. One excludes the other. When you rush, you lose awareness. You become consumed by outcome. Your feet may be moving, but your soul is somewhere behind you, struggling to catch up. And so, the practice begins with this gentle invitation. Slow down. Slow down not because you're lazy, not because you lack ambition, but because you finally understand that rushing through life is a form of spiritual violence. It's a refusal to feel, a refusal to listen, a refusal to be here, and most of all, it's a refusal to heal. Healing never happens in speed. Healing does not respond to pressure. Healing is not a performance. Healing is like a wounded animal. It will only emerge in safety. And safety comes not from hustle, but from slowness. When you rush to fix yourself, to fix your pain, to become someone better, you bypass the most sacred parts of yourself, the ones that don't need fixing, the ones that don't need achievement, the ones that just need you to sit with them and say, I see you, I'm not leaving. In silence, the mind may panic at first. It may scream, we're wasting time, we're falling behind, we must do more, be more, move faster. But slowly, beneath the chatter, you begin to hear a different voice, a softer one, a wiser one, the voice of the soul, the body, the truth. And that voice does not speak in urgency. It speaks in whispers, in breaths, in still moments between the chaos. That voice will never rush you. That voice will never shame you. That voice will never push you to be anyone other than who you are right now. And when you listen to that voice, something shifts inside you. A peace arises that doesn't come from arriving but from allowing. A sense of rest that says, I don't need to get there. I just need to be here, and here is enough. But this is not what the world teaches. The world teaches comparison. It shows you people sprinting ahead. It tells you to match their pace. It calls rest laziness. It calls softness weakness. It praises burnout and celebrates exhaustion as evidence of worth. But none of that leads to awakening. None of that leads to freedom. None of that leads to love. In fact, the faster you run, the more likely you are running from something. From emptiness. From grief. From the voice you don't want to hear in the silence. From the pain you haven't yet felt. From the truth that maybe the things you're chasing were never what you needed. This is why slowness feels uncomfortable at first, because it reveals what you buried under motion. But if you stay, if you breathe through the discomfort, if you learn to rest in the slowness instead of resisting it, you will uncover what the fast-paced life has hidden. The peace that doesn't depend on outcome. The worth that doesn't depend on productivity. The love that doesn't need performance. The joy that lives in the simplest of things. The wind, the warmth of sunlight, the texture of your breath, the sound of your heartbeat. You'll find that when you slow down, everything begins to speak. The body tells you what it truly needs not, what culture says it should look like. The heart tells you who it truly longs for not, who society tells you to impress. The soul tells you what truly matters not, what the market says to chase. And life tells you, I was never trying to rush you. I've been here the whole time, waiting for you to notice. So you begin to walk differently. You begin to speak more slowly. You begin to listen with your whole body. You begin to let moments stretch open, rather than rushing through them to get to the next. You learn that what you once called wasting time is often the doorway to timelessness. You see that the people who matter are the ones who make you feel safe to slow down, not speed up. You realize that the dreams you had, if they require you to burn out, to rush endlessly, to live outside yourself, are not dreams. They are distractions. And so you let them go. Not because you've given up, but because you've remembered what truly matters. And then healing begins. Slowly, quietly, naturally, like dawn rising over a sleeping mountain, like spring returning after a long winter, like forgiveness softening the edge of old pain, like joy visiting you in the middle of doing nothing. This is the wisdom of slowness. It teaches you that life is not waiting at the end of a checklist, it's happening now. And the more you slow down, the more you notice it, the more you fall in love with it, the more you come home to it. Because your soul doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in spirals, in rhythms, in tides, in the shape of breath. And to honor your soul, you must honor its pace. So let this be your new mantra. Slow is not weak. Slow is sacred. Let others run. Let the world chase. Let time do what it does. But you will move like water. You will live like breath. You will bloom in your own season. And in that slowness, you will find not delay but depth, not laziness but liberation, not failure but freedom. The deepest surrender. Let go of who you think you should be. There comes a moment quiet, sacred, often unnoticed, when all the striving in you grows tired, when the masks you wear to be loved begin to weigh heavy, when the noise inside your mind becomes louder than the world outside, and you feel it not with panic, but with clarity, a whisper from within that says, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep pushing. I can't keep chasing the image of a self I'm supposed to be. That moment is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. Because that is the moment you begin to meet your true self, not the polished one, not the perfect one, not the one you try to become, but the real one, the quiet one, the one who has been with you all along, waiting for your surrender. Buddhism teaches that the root of all suffering is attachment. But one of the most dangerous attachments is the one we often overlook, the attachment to who we think we're supposed to be. You were told from a young age, be strong, Be successful. Be kind, but not too soft. Be humble, but impressive. Be spiritual, but not strange. Be beautiful. Be efficient. Be someone they admire. So you shaped yourself. You learned how to hide your mess, how to say the right things, how to shrink your sadness and inflate your confidence, how to present a version of yourself that others could accept. But in doing so, you slowly abandoned your own soul. Not out of malice, out of survival. You didn't betray yourself because you were weak. You did it because you thought it was the only way to be loved. And that's where the suffering began, not in your imperfections, but in your disconnection from what was real. You became a character in your own life, a performer, a fixer, a seeker of approval. But now, something deeper is calling you back. And it doesn't speak in the language of self-improvement. It speaks in the language of surrender. Let go. Let go of the performance. Let go of the need to impress. Let go of the story that you are only worthy if you become someone else. Let go of the voice that says, "I'll be enough when," because that voice never ends. It will chase you through every achievement. It will poison every success. It will haunt every quiet moment with the whisper, "Still not enough." But the truth, the beautiful, radical, liberating truth is that you don't need to become anyone else to be whole. You don't need to fix yourself to be loved. You don't need to earn your place on this earth. You already belong. You already carry light. You already have everything you need, not in your future self, but in the you that exists right now, beneath the fear, beneath the shame, beneath the false roles. And the path back to that self is not found in foresight, is found in surrender. Let go. Let go of the image. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the belief that your worth is conditional. When you do, you may feel lost at first, because the identity you clung to, even if painful, was familiar. It gave you a role, it gave you a purpose, it gave you a mask. And when the mask falls away, you may ask, who am I without this? Will anyone still love me? What if I'm too much or not enough? These questions are not wrong. They are sacred. They are the beginning of awakening. Not the awakening of a new self, but the rediscovery of the original one. The child within you who danced without asking why. The soul that felt the wind and called it a friend. The heart that didn't perform it, simply was. That is what you are returning to. And from that place, something beautiful happens. You no longer seek perfection, you seek presence. You no longer beg for love, you become love. You no longer ask, how can I be better? You ask, how can I be more honest, more kind, more free? And that freedom does not come from doing more. It comes from letting go of what is false. You stop trying to hold it all together. You allow yourself to cry without shame. You forgive yourself for not being perfect. You laugh again, not because everything is fixed, but because you're no longer pretending. You speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. You walk away from things that drain you. You rest, not because you earned it, but because you're human. You stop chasing healing like a finish line. You understand now, healing is not becoming someone new. Healing is remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And in that remembrance, your entire life begins to shift. Your relationships become more real because you're no longer trying to be someone you're not. Your decisions become simpler because you're guided by truth, not pressure. Your mind becomes quieter because you're no longer debating who you should be. Your heart becomes lighter because you're finally safe to just be. And life becomes a little softer. Not because it's easier, but because you're no longer resisting your own nature. You've stopped fighting to control the wave sand, started learning how to float. You've stopped climbing the mountain of should be, and started walking the path of already am. And in that surrender, you discover the deepest power. The power to be fully human, fully flawed, fully present and still fully worthy. So now you walk with peace, not the peace that comes from having no problems, but the peace that comes from not needing to be someone else to feel at home in your own skin. This is the final letting go, not of dreams, not of hopes, but of the illusion that you are not enough. And when that illusion dies, what remains is truth. And truth, no matter how raw, is always more beautiful than perfection. So breathe. Let the image go. Let the shame fall. Let the pressure dissolve. You are not a product. You are not a brand. You are not a role to be played. You are a soul, a sacred, breathing, feeling, living soul. And your only job is not to become someone else, it is to remember who you already are. That is the deepest surrender. And that is your true beginning. The great unlearning, undoing the illusions that keep you in pain. There comes a time in every seeker's journey when learning is no longer enough. You have read the books. You have sat in silence. You have followed the teachings. You have repeated the mantras. You have collected truths like treasure stacked high in your mind, like a shrine to wisdom. And yet, something still aches. Something still stirs deep in your chest. Not a lack of knowledge, but a presence of heaviness, as if even your growth has become a burden. As if even your spiritual path is now carrying weight it was never meant to hold. That is when the deeper path begins. Not the path of learning more, but the path of unlearning. Because what keeps you in pain is not always the absence of truth, it is the presence of illusion. And no amount of wisdom can enter a mind still crowded with lies it hasn't let go of. Buddhism speaks to this not as a metaphor but as a living instruction. To awaken, you must unlearn the world. You must release not only your suffering, but the ideas that created it. Because you were not born in pain. You were not born in shame. You were not born broken. You were born whole. It was the world that taught you otherwise. It taught you that love must be earned, that your value depends on achievement, that failure makes you unworthy, that emotions are weaknesses, that silence is awkward, that rest is laziness, that you must become something greater to deserve peace. And because you were innocent, you believed it. You wore those beliefs like clothing, like skin. You forgot they were added to you. You began to believe they were you. So you lived trying to prove you were worthy, trying to hide your wounds, trying to pretend, trying to chase a version of yourself that didn't even feel real. And what began as survival slowly became your identity. But now, you are waking up. And with that awakening comes a sacred task. Not to become someone new, but to unbecome everything false. This is the great unlearning. It is the process of returning not through addition, but through subtraction. Peeling away the layers that do not belong to your soul. Releasing the masks. Letting the lies fall like old leaves in autumn. It begins simply by noticing. Noticing when your mind repeats a script that was never yours. Noticing when shame appears not as truth, but as habit. Noticing when you speak words that keep others comfortable, while suffocating your own truth. Noticing when fear disguises itself as being realistic. Noticing how often your heart whispers no while your mouth says yes. This is not about judgment. This is about clarity. Because when you see clearly, you begin to choose consciously. And when you choose consciously, you reclaim your power. Unlearning is not loud. It is not glamorous. It is not a highlight reel. It happens quietly in the moments you stop believing what once controlled you. In the moment, you stop apologizing for your softness. In the moment, you stop proving your worth. In the moment, you stop rushing toward healing and allow yourself to rest in the messiness of now. It's in the moment you cry, not because you're weak, but because you finally gave yourself permission to feel. It's in the moment you say, "I don't know," without shame. It's in the moment you stop saying, "I'm fine," when you're not. That is unlearning. It is not a retreat from life. It is the most intimate engagement with life you've ever known. Because once the illusions fall, you begin to see everything differently. You stop seeing pain as punishment and begin to see it as a teacher. You stop seeing stillness as laziness and begin to see it as power. You stop seeing emotions as problems and begin to see them as guides. You stop seeing vulnerability as risk and begin to see it as strength. You stop seeing imperfection as flaw and begin to see it as realness. The more you unlearn, the freer you become. Free from the roles you were assigned. Free from the weight of others' expectations. Free from the inner critic who was never yours to begin with. Free from the illusion that you are not already whole. And with that freedom comes peace. Note, a peace built on control or outcomes, but a peace born from truth. You begin to realize you do not need to be understood to be whole. You do not need to be healed to be lovable. You do not need to be certain to be grounded. You do not need to be fearless to be brave. You only need to be honest with yourself, with your heart, with the moment. And slowly, the mind unclenches. The body softens. The armor cracks. And light pours in. Not the light of achievement, but the light of presence. Not the light of victory, but the light of being seen. You return to yourself. Not the self that was molded by trauma. Not the self that performs for love, but the self that watches, breathes, feels, and simply is. The self that does not need to be improvedly revealed. And in that revelation, the healing you were chasing arrives. Not with noise, but with silence, with stillness, with sacred remembering. So now, let go. Let go of what was never yours. Let go of who you were told to be. Let go of the lies you memorized. Let go of the need to hold it all together. Let go of the idea that peace is far away. It's not. It's here, under the layers, under the fear, under the trying. It's been here all along, waiting for you to stop becoming and start being. This is the final lesson, whispered through every leaf, every sunrise, every breath. You are not here to perform. You are not here to prove. You are not here to perfect. You are here to unlearn what is false and remember what is real. And what is real is this: you are already enough. You are already whole. You are already home. Let the illusions go. Let the light in. Let yourself be, not across lands but across the layers of your own being. You did not climb a mountain. You dissolved into it. You did not discover something new. You remembered what was ancient. And now, as this journey reaches its still point, a truth rises like dawn from within. You were never lost. You were only asleep in the dream of becoming. The world told you to chase, to fix, to prove. But the teachings whispered, sit, breathe, return. And in that return, you did not find answers. You found peace with the questions. You found silence where there was once screaming. You found breath where there was once control. And most of all, you found yourself, not the mask, not the mind, but the clear, open sky behind all thought. Each lesson peeled something away. A belief, a fear, a voice that was never yours. And underneath it all, what remained was not a perfect version of you. It was the real you. Tender, vast, aware. untouched by time. You learned that control is not strength, surrender is. That silence is not emptiness, it is where everything begins. That presence is not passivity, it is the ground of all transformation. You saw that what you resist grows. What you judge hides. But what you meet with compassion melts. You learned to stop running, to stop performing, to stop punishing yourself for being human. You forgave the voice that told you healing had to be hard. You sat with your shadows long enough to see they were never monsters, just messengers. You held your pain like a child. You let go of people who loved only your masks. You stopped rushing toward peace and let peace rush toward you. And now you know, there is no finish line. There is no final awakening. There is only this breath. And this one. And this one. You are not a project. You are not a timeline. You are not a brand. You are a Sula river, a fire, a soft unfolding. You are meant to feel, to fall, to rise, to rest, to forget, and to remember again. Not because you failed, but because that's the rhythm of awakening. So now, as the final word rests on your heart, carry this knowing with you. You do not need to chase peace. You do not need to earn stillness. You do not need to become something better. You only need to return to yourself, again and again, with love, with breath, with patience. And every time you do, the path will greet you, not ahead, not outside, but within, because in the end, you were never the seeker, you were never the struggle, you were always the path, and now you walk it awake,